They did what they did last time. Oh.
Kim, how are you?
I am well. How are you? Much improved from an hour ago.
I mean, you can't go to building.
Yeah.
She's talking to you.
Yeah, we can go.
It's for you. Who's got that ringtone?
It's actually funny. I actually have the same ringtone.
Here, Mark.
I'm skipping, just so you know, I'm skipping just right to that after our pledge to the hearing.
Oh,
And then we'll come
You're the
back to
boss.
this. I just want you, I want everyone to be on the same page. If you want to pass that down.
Donkey? Is that for you?
It's for everyone. Oh, you're good? Okay. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of June 18th, 2018. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so 6:30 we have a dangerous dog public hearing. Want to open that up?
Oh, that's my turn. Yeah, sorry. Where are my motions? Here we go. I move to open the public hearing for a dangerous dog.
Second.
Discussion. Want to read that?
Okay. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 157, the Town of Mendon Bylaws, Section 7, the Mendon Board of Selectmen will hold a hearing on Monday, June 18th, 2018, at 6:30 p.m. to investigate complaints of a nuisance or dangerous dog currently housed at 51 Blackstone Street, Mendon, Mass. The hearing will be held in the Upper Town Hall meeting at the Town Hall, 20 Main Street, Mendon. All interested parties are invited to attend.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I think we should start with our animal control officer. Come on up.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Kevin Sullivan, Regional Animal Control. So I received a request in writing from Jennifer and Ryan Shanahan requesting a dangerous dog hearing. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to read my letter to the board. Let me just grab it out here. So, on April 24th, 2018, I received a call from Jennifer Shanahan of 18 Kelly Road, Mendon, Mass., who informed me that her dog was attacked by a neighbor's dog. Shanahan stated the neighbor's Labradoodle came out of their yard, attacked her senior Chihuahua mix, and then was retrieved by the neighbor, Regina LaRoe. Shanahan at this time stated LaRoe informed her there was an issue with their electric fence, they were having it fixed, and she apologized, stating that her dog is dog aggressive. I informed Shanahan that there was going to be referred to the Mendon Animal Inspector for quarantine. I'd be contacting LaRoe and there would be a warning issued. I contacted LaRoe, who confirmed the bite occurred, confirmed the dog was dog aggressive, and who also stated the electric fence was down and will be repaired in the near future. I instructed LaRoe that the bite was being referred to the Mendon Animal Inspector for quarantine, the conditions of the quarantine, that I was issuing a warning for the violation of the Mendon Town Bylaw, Section 7, Subsection 8.2, dog at large. At this time, the bite was referred to Mendon Animal Inspector and a warning was issued. On May 23, 2018, I received a call from Shanahan stating LaRoe's dog, who previously attacked their dog, was once again in the yard. She informed me she did not have time to get a picture of the incident, but it wasn't the first time since the bite. Shanahan stated her concern was safety in regards to her two senior dogs, two small children, and the lack of repair to the electric fence, while the LaRoe's dog is still coming onto their property. Shanahan further stated that she had to retain legal representation since vet expenses had not yet been paid, as previously agreed upon between her and LaRose. At the time, Shanahan inquired about the steps process to request a dangerous dog hearing, and I informed her to begin the process she would need to send a letter in writing for a written request. At this time, Shanahan informed me that the letter would be constructed and sent over later in the week. So basically, going through the town bylaw, in accordance with the Mendon Town Bylaw, Section 7, subsection 8.5, I believe this dog does fall under the definition of the dangerous dog. If you do agree, once again, also in accordance with Mendon Town Bylaw, Section 7, subsection 11.4, the selectmen can order remedial action in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 140, 157. Within Section 157, subsection C, there are 7 remedial actions that can be ordered. After speaking to the complainant, Shanahan, I believe subsection C1, that the dog be humanely restrained, and subsection C4, that the owner or keeper provide proof of insurance, be ordered for remedial for the complaint. From there, on June 8th, I spoke with Shanahan, informed her of my recommendations in reference to her complaint, and informed her the date of the hearing, June 18th. Shanahan stated that she felt the recommendation addressed all of her concerns, and I instructed her she would receive a letter from me later in the week. I proceeded to contact Laurel, informed her of the request for a dangerous dog hearing, and my recommendation to resolve the complaint. And I instructed her the date of the hearing. In addition, I instructed Laurel, in accordance with the town bylaw, section 7, subsection 11.3, I was issuing an interim order of restraint for her dog until the hearing. Laurel agreed to comply with my order. We discussed the date of the hearing further in detail, and I instructed her that she would receive a letter from me within the week.
Okay.
I also dropped off a copy of my letter to you guys, the letter I sent to the Shanahans, the letter I sent to LaRose, along with a copy of Mass General Law and a copy of the town bylaw.
So do both parties, have they agreed to your recommendations?
I believe both parties are here tonight, and I do believe that the LaRose have further discussion on it.
Okay. Do the Shanahans, I assume, are you the Shanahans?
Yes.
Do you have anything to add to this?
Nothing in particular to add to it. I think that we're concerned that we don't feel precautions are being taken to keep the dog out of our yard at this point. We have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. She's a tall dog. She's at eye level with a 6-year-old son. I'm concerned about his safety in the yard at this point. He is afraid to play in our yard. Both of our kids were outside when this happened. It was shocking and upsetting for us and for the LaRose, I know. And it's obviously a very uncomfortable situation. This is a step that we felt was necessary for the protection of our kids, and we do have senior dogs. More importantly, I want my children to feel comfortable that they can go outside and play in their yard and not be worried that she's going to come back over the wall.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Ernest Swan, counsel for the LaRose, I represent them. If I could approach, I'd like to.
Yes, come on up.
Good evening.
Nice to meet you.
Vaguely familiar. Just a very few questions. Sir, when was the first time you observed the dog?
First time I observed the dog
Was it the day that you delivered the?
Yes.
Okay. So prior to that, you'd had no interaction with the dog?
No, I didn't need to have interaction with the dog before.
So how did you determine that the dog was dangerous?
Under the town bylaw, the definition of dangerous dog.
Did you engage in an investigation where you evaluated the dog?
No, I don't need to evaluate the dog. My whole thing is I wasn't present at the time of the bite, and I wouldn't be able to evaluate a aggressive dog unless I was present there with another dog.
That's assuming that the dog is only aggressive towards animals. The statute requires it to be dangerous towards people, livestock. On the day that you delivered the summons, did you interact with the dog?
Yes.
Did you have any problems?
No.
Is that the dog, or does that look like the dog?
Similar, yes.
Okay, thank you. If we could introduce that as an exhibit, this also, does that look like the dog?
Similar, yes.
This would be a picture of the dog getting off the school bus. So, under the statute, there's a couple of exceptions. Well, there's a few. Do you agree that one of the exceptions is if the dog is defending itself?
Yes.
Okay. Do you also agree that if the dog is in a barrier or enclosed area, fenced-in area, that if the other party trespasses unlawfully into that area, that's a defense? Which is under the statute?
I believe it actually depends on the definition of the area where the dog's contained.
Well, it talks about an enclosed or fenced-in area.
Yes. There is no enclosed or fenced-in areas.
Okay, so is this the area that's between the two properties, that plastic fencing? I understand there's also an electric fence. Would you describe or define that as some
I did
sort of
not see the plastic fencing. I did see the rock, so it's from where I was standing.
Okay. Does this appear to be an accurate photograph of the area?
I wasn't that up and close, so I honestly can't say.
Well, is there a red barn in the?
I do believe so, yes.
Okay, and there's a stone wall that looks like that?
Yes.
Okay, and is this also another picture of the same general area with the fencing?
Once again, I could not see the fencing.
Do they have a
but-
red barn that is similar to that?
Yes.
Is there a stone wall similar to that?
Yes.
Okay, so we'd ask that these also be entered as showing the barrier in place. No further questions for him?
Can we see those? Pictures?
Yep.
Can I see them as well? So I have photos on my phone of where their fence ends. Certainly doesn't.
I'll step away and let's call back.
I have photos of where it ends.
Read your phone, man. Thank you.
I also have photos of my dog after the attack, if you're interested in those.
So,
Yeah, I can see this.
I mean, I guess there's like
Yeah.
some sort of plastic fencing. This here, I guess we were looking at that.
Yeah, yeah.
10 feet.
I have a photo right here of where the fence ends. That's the end of the fence right there. This is the stone wall. So the fencing goes there. And so you can see they did put some fencing up after
She
issues
looks
with
cute.
our other neighbors.
Very cute. Very sweet.
She's not sweet when she's in our yard.
Yeah.
This is where the fencing ends, approximately right there.
Okay.
That's our
Can I zoom in on this?
Oh, sorry.
Can you explain that to me, too?
Sure, so there's a rock wall that goes in between the properties. We have 2 red barns that are positioned there. There's some plastic fencing that went up, I want to say maybe 2 years ago. They're probably better informed on that. 3 years ago, there have been some issues with, I believe, our other, I won't speak to that there. I believe there has been some issues with our other neighbors and their 2 dogs at the time. They did put some plastic fencing up to try to avoid that, but you can see that it ends essentially a foot outside of our barn. The property goes all the way down alongside, and she just comes right around it. It's not the first time that that's happened.
What am I looking at here, though?
So this is the fence right here. So that's their house. This is the rock wall that's on our property.
Okay.
They're welcome to come see these as well
see
if
the
they're
fence.
interested in it.
That's a fence, right?
Yep. Then,
Take your phone.
sure. So you can see the fencing goes that way. This picture is a picture that shows where the fence ends. That's it. So the fence ends right there. That's their house right there.
Okay, so
This
you're
is
saying-
all our
So you're
property.
saying she gets around that?
Absolutely. So this is, if you look at, that's our backyard.
Okay.
Those are the 2 barns right there. The fencing ends right there. This is all their property and our property right here. So she just comes
She
around.
comes and visits over this way. Yeah, okay, gotcha, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, may I see those, please?
Did you want this back? Did you get a look at this?
I did, yeah. I just have I have a question on,
Referring to, you know,
I don't understand what that is, so I'd like to ask that question. Or Mark, if you would like to.
I'll ask. question for you, Mr. Horn. What is this 10 feet referring to?
So I'll obviously have a couple of witnesses. So initially what happened was we had a trespass. The two dogs from the complainant trespassed onto the property of the LaRues, approximately 50 feet. Then afterwards, they then went back to their property with Daisy following them. Approximately 10 feet over the line, it'll be our argument that she was placed in a position where she was fearful, and under the statute, which allows her to do this, she was defending herself. One dog was to the rear of her, sniffing her, and the other dog was directly in front of her, facing her chest. And that is when she was scared, and she bit that dog. And that is an exception to the statute.
Absolutely not. I'm really petting their dog.
One moment.
One at a time.
This is a fabrication.
Oh, well, you can come up in a minute.
And at that point, she was defending herself and then bit the dog. And then I believe returned back to her property. We're going to introduce evidence from an expert on dog behavior, particularly with socializing with dogs, who I think will also support that position that the dog was in a fearful spot. There are two exceptions that apply here. One is that the dog felt threatened. Two, that their dog trespassed into a barrier area, which again is also defined in the statute. And engaged besides the barrier, if you take the position that there wasn't an adequate barrier, it's still a trespass. The law specifically talks about that. So we have additional witnesses, but I'm not sure if they're done with their position, so we'll wait.
Want to come up and...
Bulleted complaints. I also have a lot of information from our veterinarian.
Because I don't even understand what the process is here, to be honest with you.
So essentially, obviously this is an uncomfortable situation. What had happened that day is something that happens every day at my house. I have two dogs, I have two little kids. I picked my children up from school, we came home, we let our dogs out. They were not leashed, they were in our yard with us, as they always are. They are constantly under our supervision when they are in our yard. Our dogs are elderly. Our senior dog, who is 14 years old, has severe arthritis and has difficulty moving around at this point. Our Chihuahua barks, but she's afraid of her own shadow. She stays with us. My daughter had gone into the house to use the bathroom. My son was on the swings. At the time, we didn't know their dog's name. He said, "Mommy, the white dog is coming over the wall." I immediately walked towards her. She did not appear threatening at all. She was wagging her tail. She seemed fine. My big dog followed me. He's a lab mix. My son followed me. I was petting her head. She seemed friendly and absolutely fine in our yard. Our Chihuahua was not barking at her. Nobody was aggressing at that dog. She seemed just fine. I started telling her, "Go home, go home, go home." Mrs. LaRoe heard me. She started walking through the woods with the electric fence collar in her hand. She said, "I'm sorry." She doesn't have her collar on. When she came into view and saw that my dogs were out, she said, "Oh no, she's not good with other dogs." I hope she doesn't deny that today. That's exactly what was said. Within seconds of that statement, and I don't know if it's because Daisy saw her or not, she began attacking the Chihuahua. Mrs. LaRoe had to come over the fence, over the rock wall. She pulled the dog off of my dog, who was very viciously attacking her. The dog broke free and attacked her a second time. Mrs. LaRoe was holding on to that dog. And she was saying to me, "Please get Ronnie, please get your dog out of the yard. I don't want to try to move her until you've moved your dog." That dog was trying to come at my dog again, and she was having to hold her and restrain her during that time. I picked our dog up, I ran inside, she was bleeding profusely and screaming. We wrapped her in a towel and went to Mendon Animal Clinic with my two little kids in the car while this happened.
This is all happening in your yard?
In my yard, over that rock wall. She had to come over the rock wall to do this. Immediately after this happened, she texted me, she apologized. I have all those messages on my phone. She was very apologetic, very concerned about the kids and the dog and what had happened. She was very kind about the entire situation. I expressed sympathy for them, that this was a very upsetting thing that had happened. I've owned dogs my entire life. I've never owned an animal that attacked another animal. I've never owned an animal that's been attacked. It was a very distressing situation. Our kids were there. I'm not understanding why this has been such a challenge to make sure that this dog is restrained properly in the yard. I think that if this were my animal, she would feel the exact same way. And I have to tell you, I'd have been over the next day. It wouldn't have been 2 weeks later. I have a text message from her. 2 weeks later, I text her and said, Daisy was in our yard at 7:30 tonight. We saw her over the rock wall. She responded, I have the message, and said, we have been unable to make the repairs to our electric fence that they installed themselves. After speaking, I believe they installed themselves. After speaking with the animal control officer and with our vet, they both were very clear, our vet especially, that when an animal has demonstrated prey aggression, the way that Daisy has at this point, an electric fence is not sufficient to keep them from attacking again. I shouldn't have to be afraid to have my animals and my children in my backyard because they don't want to do something more with an animal who's demonstrated aggression. It's not right. So the reason that we're here today is because of that. It has nothing to do with anything else. It doesn't have to do with the vet bills. It doesn't have to do with any other issue that we have with them. There's not an issue. We want our kids and our animals to be safe in our yard. That is our home that we should feel safe and comfortable in. That's what I'm asking for.
Follow-up question.
And I do want to mention one more. Per the Mass General Law, in Section 4 that Mr. Horn is referring to, does say at the time of the attack or threat, the person or animal that was attacked or threatened by the dog had breached an enclosure or structure in which the dog was kept apart from the public, and such person and animal was not authorized by the owner of the premises to be within such enclosure. A partial fence for a dog that isn't restrained, I'm not sure what you'd actually consider an enclosure.
Well, we're not in agreement of a partial fence. We're not in agreement with
This
that.
picture shows it. It's not a fence.
A follow-up question.
Yes.
So, Kevin, there are multiple recommendations that you could have made.
Yes.
And my understanding is that you thought that you were in agreement with his recommendation, which, considering what you're saying, actually seems pretty generous, because this is just recommending that they have more insurance on their home. It's not recommending that the dog be euthanized, and it's not
No.
being recommended that they get rid of the dog. This
No.
is, it actually seems like relatively mild compared to what you're describing.
I mean, we
Just
spoke
wondering-
with the animal control officer, and we felt like if my hope was that they would be willing to participate in this neighborly and restrain the dog in a way that we felt was safe for our family and for our children. Honestly, I'm surprised sitting here tonight that this is how this is going. I was hopeful that they would say, absolutely, we'll keep her penned or we'll keep her tethered at all times outside. That's what I would do. That's what I think a responsible dog owner does after a situation like this. I don't think it's safe or fair to leave a dog that has clearly demonstrated prey aggression behind an electric fence and say, good luck to your 6-year-old. I'm not trying to be dramatic. I truly feel uncomfortable with him outside with the dog there.
So Kevin, you spoke to both parties, correct? And at any time, were they both in agreement with this solution?
I informed, Ms. Shanahan was in agreement with it. I informed Ms. Laurel my recommendations were, and she, at that time, she didn't actually disagree with anything. She didn't voice her opinion on it. But she did agree to do the 14-day restraint until the day of the hearing.
So I'm curious now what they think a compromise might be.
So we're going to pause because Selectman Schofield has some questions for town council.
Could you- Oh, no, right there's fine. We can- Yeah. So, I don't know about you two gentlemen, but, I mean, I've been selecting for 4 years, and I don't think I've been in the middle of any dog hearings. I'm punching outside my weight at the moment here, and I just like some guidance. I'm unclear on what it is that we have to do at the end of this, and what's in our authority to do or to not do.
You need to make evidence, wants to give evidence. You need to evaluate that. You need to determine whether the situation is equivalent of a dangerous dog. I think your animal control officer gave you the definition that's pretty good. I think you need to look at what the exceptions are. I think you need to hear both sides of the story and evaluate what people are saying. And you need to then decide whether you think the behavior rises to the level that the dog should be declared a dangerous dog, or if it's only a nuisance dog. And then there's all sorts of remedies.
Which we're allowed to choose?
Yes, but it would, there are some you probably could not choose. It would be unusual to implement something in excess of the recommendation of your animal control officer, particularly on a first-time offense. And this was a situation where the allegation was that an animal, not a human, had been endangered. And I think even though there may be feelings on both sides that go beyond that issue, I think that's the scope of the offense that you're looking at. And I also think that you can adopt the order or change or modify it. You can declare the dog that there's not enough evidence to decide and say there is, no positive finding of a dangerous dog. And if there is such a finding, the party whose dog has been labeled that way has, I believe it's a 10-day appeal period, but I'm sure you will know better than I.
As what, I'm sorry?
10-day appeal.
10-day appeal period to the district court.
Okay, so Chairman, can we just have Cindy stay here, Council stay here? Thank you very much.
Okay, so,
You'll hear from the LaRue's, don't we?
well, do the LaRue's want to speak themselves?
Actually, I'd like to ask her a couple of questions if I could.
Sure.
I'd like to examine the witness. Thank you, ma'am. First of all, sorry that this happened.
Thank you.
And I do agree, it's unfortunate that we're here.
It is.
When did you decide to file your complaint of a dangerous dog? The date, if you roughly remember.
I don't recall the date. It's something that I asked the animal control officer about shortly after it had happened.
So about a month after this happened. And was that after the LaRue's refused to pay the second vet bill?
So this dangerous dog hearing has to do with the dog
Actually, I
having
just asked you a question. I'd ask
back
you
in
to
our
answer.
yard. I'm responding to your
Well,
question.
it's a yes or
Well,
no.
we're not in court, so I'm going to respond to you the way I would like. I'm responding to your question. This dangerous dog hearing has nothing to do with that. You will be receiving paperwork with them shortly. We have served them in small claims court because they have refused to pay their share of the medical bills, which is all of it. Massachusetts is a full liability state, as I'm sure you're well aware. In any case, this is a separate issue. This is filed because my children have had nightmares. My children have not wanted to play outside. My children feel uncomfortable. And we do not feel that the LaRue's are taking the appropriate precautions to keep my children and my senior animals safe in my yard.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd ask you to instruct the witness to answer the question. Did she file the complaint after the LaRue's refused to pay the second vet bill?
I honestly
So
am
yes
not
or no?
sure when I asked.
I think, if you don't mind me jumping in here,
Do you want to come up here as well?
I just have something brief to say. We waited till we saw the full effect that it had on our children, which took a few weeks. They were very upset immediately for the days right after the attack. And then as weeks went on, my son is not playing in the yard, not riding his bike without one of us out there. What is going on? What are you doing? I don't want to be able to do because of the dog. That took a while to establish. That's when we realized that this dog is still not tethered, and our children are not comfortable being in the yard, and neither are we. That's
So,
I would like
Thank
to,
you.
I can actually answer that question for
ahead.
Mr. Horn. When she originally called me, she actually had instructed me that she had heard about the possibility of a dangerous dog hearing from her counsel.
But what I'm asking is, did she file the complaint before or after?
We spoke with our
LaRue's
counsel
said that they
immediately
did not
after this
pay the
happened.
second
and he informed us about the dangerous dog hearing immediately after this occurred. He said this was a step we may need to take if they were not
Okay.
cooperative.
And then, so why did you wait a month?
Because I was hoping that they were gonna handle this with us. I thought
Pay the
we,
additional vet bills?
no, that they were gonna take care of the dog, but the dog has been in our yard since this has happened.
She has not.
She absolutely has.
Hold on,
Yana.
hold on.
And I have a text message response from Mrs.
I
LaRoe.
have them all.
Okay.
I do too.
Hold on, wait till you're up here. Don't worry. Sorry.
Okay,
No further questions. Thank you.
thank you. Do the LaRoes have,
We'd like to introduce some evidence. Mrs. LaRue, if you could please come up. Thank you. So could you describe a little bit about your dog Daisy? They have some pictures. One of the pictures involves her, it looks like she's in front of a school bus.
Yes, Daisy is a 5-year-old St. Bernard Poodle mix. She went to, both my kids go to Norfolk Aggie in Walpole, and they're allowed to bring their dogs to school. So last May, Isabella took her on the bus, 45-minute drive, 60 kids on the bus, spent the day at Norfolk Aggie in the animal science department with 5 to 10 dogs, all different sizes. No problems, got back on the bus.
How many kids go to that school, if you know?
500,
So
maybe?
500 kids, there's principal, teachers, no one had any concern that your dog was dangerous?
No,
Under the definition?
from what I heard, they all, she's,
So there any incidents with your dog?
no,
And how many times has your dog done that?
gone just that one day,
One day? And was there all day?
all day, yes.
Could you describe what happened the day of this incident?
I'd gotten home from work, and it was gonna rain the next day, so I wanted to run outside and seed, get ready for the summer. So Daisy and I were in the front yard, in the front of the house, and all of a sudden, I see her 2 dogs come over the stone wall in that picture that I have marked.
Okay, so you're saying her dogs went into your yard,
Her
not
dogs
the other
came
way
over my
around?
side, yes,
How far into your yard did they come?
about 50 feet.
Did they have permission to be in your yard?
No,
Is there some sort of a structure or barrier between the properties?
there is like a plastic fence, because we had chickens back there at one point, so we had a double barrier for the chickens and then that other barrier.
What's that other barrier, please?
Well, it's plastic, well, the other fence, oh, was a...
Stone wall?
Was a stone, well, there was the stone wall, it was a wire to keep the chickens in.
So we have a stone wall, we have some sort of a plastic fencing, and then we have, is it an electric fence?
The electric fence, yes.
And these not so much the stone wall, but these other two instruments are designed as what?
Just as a barrier,
As a barrier. And is that a barrier to keep things in?
things in and out,
Why would you want to keep things out? Because of the chickens?
yes.
Okay.
We had goats.
Continue, please.
Sometimes the cows got out and went
I
to
have just
Imperial.
a quick question. The fence, the plastic fence,
Yep,
does it, I mean, where does it end? It must end somewhere.
it does. I don't know footage-wise how far it went down.
Can I follow up on
I
that?
really don't know.
I'm sorry.
We own 11 and a half acres, so
Just for clarification, Mr. Horn, what I'm a little bit confused about is I thought, I wrote down in my notes, I heard you say that, you're arguing that there's a barrier there that cannot, that there's no openings in, right? That
I
you,
didn't say that.
oh, I thought that's what you heard.
No, what I said was there's a barrier there, and the statute specifically discusses if someone or the dog trespasses unauthorized into that enclosed area.
Okay.
There's nothing in the statute or case law
Okay.
that requires it to be impenetrable.
Okay.
It need only be a barrier.
Oh, okay.
How can
Described
it,
as an enclosure.
yeah.
Enclosure
If
or
it's
barrier,
not,
right.
if it's not closed off and it ends somewhere.
That's what I was just trying to
How is
clarify.
it
We don't disagree that it ends
Okay.
somewhere, everything ends somewhere.
Yeah, but
there's
to me,
nothing
an
in the law
enclosure
that
is
says
something
it
like you
must.
put the lions in the enclosure at the zoo, you don't put them in.
Structure.
Exactly. Breach an enclosure or structure. Enclosure is absolutely a confined area.
Right.
There is nothing in the statute that says it
Yeah, but
must
it
be
is a fenced-in
impenetrable.
area.
Okay, that's what I'm just trying to get to, all right.
However, the better it is.
Right, yeah, I just want to make sure that I understood what you were saying, because I wrote that
But
down.
the fence is the LaRue's?
Yes.
Yes, everything's on our side.
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying that these people's 14-year-old dog with arthritis jumped over your fence
No, the
to
fence...
get at your dog?
No, there was a tree that had fallen down after the snowstorms, and because we're in the woods, we didn't know it was down until that happened.
So what you're saying is the fence was down?
One part of the fence where they came over, yes.
Okay.
And actually, hold on, I do want to go into explanation, that it does go into further explanation. The dog had breached an enclosure or structure in which the dog was kept away from the public or such person or animal, was not authorized by the owner on the premises to be within such enclosure, including but not limited to a gated fenced-in area if the gate was closed, whether locked or unlocked. A gated fenced-in area with a
That's
closed
another,
gate.
that's another example of an enclosure. I can provide you with, if you'd like, perhaps 500 examples of an enclosure, but you just made our case for us. He did not have, excuse me, if we could have one person speak at a time.
Straight line.
They did not have permission to be in this enclosed area.
All right.
But that's only one exception. We still
Okay,
have
so-
to meet the
Okay,
definition
time
of a
out.
dangerous dog.
So I understand that. So, town council, so I sit here thinking to myself, okay, so there's no disputing that a dog got attacked and got attacked by their dog. Nobody's disputing that, right? So we know the dog is capable of aggression. You cannot deny that. It's capable of aggression.
Every
Whether it
dog
happened,
is- every
don't
dog is.
interrupt me, please. Whether it's in your yard or somebody else's yard, okay? And we don't want that to happen again. I don't care who caused it, how it happened, I don't particularly care. All I know is that to me, the slight chance that a child could be attacked or another dog could be attacked trumps the right of the dog to have free access to run wherever it wants. So I guess my question is, I'm confused at what's at issue here, right? Because are the rules saying they don't want to put their electric fence back up?
No, the fence is up,
No.
Okay, is that keeping the dog in your property?
yes.
Our whole issue is that
We don't want her tethered
they don't want to
24/7.
and she doesn't meet the standard.
Well,
Under
it's
chapter
asking that the dog stay
157, it
restrained.
clearly...
No, I'm not particularly interested in the legal details. I could care less. I care about that dog not getting at these people's kid or dogs anymore. So is the fence back up or not?
The fence, yes.
Okay, and is that keeping your dog in your, okay, and to the...
This is not an electric fence that you keep cattle in with. This is an invisible fence that once you run through it, you're through. And you're gonna...
Well, okay, but see, I have, my dog is on one of those as well, okay?
Yes, they're both.
But they have
Yeah,
the plastic
Venus
fence.
question.
No, and I understand that.
Sir, they don't.
The plastic fence is a...
Stop, one at a time. We're not gonna do this. And I'll just keep hitting it, so.
Selectmen meetings are run by Robert's Rules of Orders. All questions have to go through the chair, please, please. Okay, am I recognized?
ahead. Yes.
Now I forget what I was going to say.
No, you were talking, Selectman Schofield, talking about your electric fence.
Oh, yeah, so my dog has always been on an electric fence, and it's not a buried wire, it's a 90-foot radioactive fence, and that dog gets anywhere near 5 feet of that line, she knows that she does not go across that line.
doesn't
Does not go across that line.
No, she does not go poop in the woods anymore because of that.
So are you folks saying that this dog is ignoring that electric fence and going over the line?
Saying that the day she came over into our yard, her collar was not on. I have no assurance that that isn't going to happen again, A. And B, I was told by my veterinarian and by the animal control officer that once an animal has demonstrated prey aggression, they will blow through an electric fence to get at something that they want to attack. Our vet told us that their dog will smell our dog in the yard and want to come for her again.
So what would you have them do? What does goodness look like?
What we asked for, what we felt was reasonable and what we asked for.
We're not asking to put up a huge fence, we're just asking to tie it up.
I want to-
Okay, so you want the animal tied up, you don't want to tie him up. That's what this all comes down to. Is that right?
Yes, they're asking for the dog to be
Okay, I got it.
restrained.
Can I ask just one question? Would a barrier that can't be breached be acceptable?
Yes.
It's too much land in between.
much
It would-
land.
The expense to put up a fence like that would be
Doesn't mean that they could,
reasonable.
They could
I'm just
put
asking a question.
Smaller penned area in their backyard, they could have a fenced backyard, whatever, but I can't the idea of that dog is gonna say, okay, I'm never blowing through this, or they're never gonna forget to put that collar on.
We
that
don't
animal.
forget.
It's outrageous. You forgot that day.
At
We didn't
what
have the
date,
fence up yet.
No.
I'm sorry.
None of that.
at what date did the electric fence go back up?
We put it up. It wasn't back up. We put it up on May 1st, May 3rd? I forget when we put the fence up.
Has the dog been in your yard since that electric fence went up?
No.
To our knowledge, no. However, we were told that,
I understand.
If that's the case, though, why was Mrs. LaRoe walking over with the electric fence collar saying she doesn't have her collar on? She was holding that collar saying she doesn't have her collar on. And I have text messages saying that the fence needed to be repaired. I do believe
No.
that fence was there prior and the animal came through it, and it's all in text messages right here. So I do not believe that it is capable of withholding that dog. And we're asking to keep each other for those reasons.
Can I answer that?
Recommendation is here
Go ahead.
in your packet.
Oh,
I do
yeah,
not
yeah.
have an electric fence collar in in my hand. I had a leash in my hand to go get her.
There was never an electric collar that they just described in her hand. She went with her leash to bring her dog back.
Well, now that's he said, she said.
I know, but
I don't know.
I have the receipts.
It's hard to, right.
I have a text message about it, if you'd like to see it.
It's right here. The fence should be finished this weekend if the weather holds up. Last weekend, we had a family issue. We were tied up with that.
So not that text message, the text message before it says, "Hi Regina, I wanted to touch base for a couple of reasons. We have a few more vet bills for Ronnie. She has 2 wounds that aren't healing well, so she's needed more visits. I'll send them along tomorrow. Also, Daisy was in our yard around 7:30 tonight. I'm hoping there have been some changes to the electric fence so that won't happen again." Why would I say changes to the electric fence?
I have no idea.
Well, that's 5.9 and then 5.10. We
Yeah.
indicate that they're fixing it. And is
She's
why,
saying something that was already there. She's saying it wasn't.
No, it says the fence should be finished this weekend if the weather holds up. That was when it was,
Why don't you give that to us?
that's when
Yeah.
it was raining every weekend. Thank you.
Good move, Mike. yeah.
and then, Mr. Chairman, we have one witness, one additional witness.
So, you recommended that the dog be tied or
I
not?
recommend that the dog be restrained.
In what
Uh,
manner?
Well, restrained, there's several different definitions to restrain. My suggestion would probably be some sort of either a fence or tether-like object.
Well, but see, the difference between those two is the difference in the argument here.
Well,
You gotta pick a decision, pick one here.
So the problem,
Yeah, there's two different things. It could be different things.
I'm just saying, he does not have to pick between those. If those are the options he's providing, that's what he can do.
So-
He does not have to pick or choose.
He might not have to, but I have every right to push him to try to get him to tell me.
There is a whole host of options that are covered by that term. The dog officer's recommendation was not overly specific. I think given everything that's gone on, that was not unintentional. I think there's 2 sides to this, and the facts are before this board to evaluate and to make the
Are
determination.
you saying it's actually improper for me to ask him to be more specific?
I'm saying he
Because if it's
does
not improper, I want him
have
to be more specific.
He doesn't have to
Well, then he
be.
could tell me himself he doesn't want to then.
so
So, back to the question.
So my concerns with the electric fence is that if a dog has a high prey drive, they can easily run through it.
Yeah,
They
my
get
dog's
a
done
quick-
that once before too.
Yep, so they get a quick jolt, they run through it, and then if
And then they won't come back.
And then if they try to come back, they actually, it's action reaction, so they then get zapped when the prey drive isn't high, and they then can't come home. So my concern is, what is this dog's prey drive, which is something I can't answer, and is another dog high enough prey to cause this dog and keep the risk the same as what it already is? And
So your
I can't-
preference would be to tether the dog?
My preference would be to restrain the dog beyond the electric fence, because I can't answer to the dog's prey
Understood.
drive.
Understood.
So we're fine with appropriate barrier, but we're having this conversation about prey drive. 2 things. We have no evidence before this board of a prey drive, and we're going to introduce evidence that contradicts that claim anyways. And then lastly, we're now a month out if this dog had a high prey drive, wouldn't we have likely have had an event in the last 30 days?
It depends on what was there for prey.
Can I just say one thing? Can I say one thing? My other neighbor, who happens to be my brother, is on the other side of us. He has a dog. Their dog is always outside. Daisy always used to go with the two of them. Now that that fence is there, has Abby been? No. She'll look at Abby from the fence, but she will not cross over that border. She got zapped really hard, and she has not done it since.
So I just heard something, that you're not opposed to doing a more formal barrier. What would that look like?
As long as it's not a physical tethering of the dog. Yes.
What would be the barrier?
Well, I think my recommendation would be that the LaRues discuss it with the dog officer to see what type of fencing is appropriate, whether it is electric or not electric or something else. I think that they should work together on that. And certainly, I think it would be appropriate to have the neighbors have some input into that to try to get a sense of security, if that's what they're concerned about.
Okay. So what I believe what I hear you saying, I almost called you chief again, Attorney Horn, is that the barrier itself will definitely keep the dog within that barrier.
Well, no one can stand before this board and tell you that any barrier will keep that dog in check, including a leash or a tether. We all have seen dogs that break free of their tethers, their chains, and everything else. But we certainly are of the position that we want to do everything in our power to ensure that that's the case.
Okay.
We don't want to tether the dog. That's not appropriate here, but we do agree that
A more formal barrier,
Yes.
not that green mesh
we have
fence.
to address the issue of their dogs coming on the LaRue's property as well. After all, that's what started this. That's what
Okay.
started this whole thing. So we have one witness if,
I think Mr. LaRue has a...
I'm only accepting, is this your witness?
no.
Okay.
How is the little guy?
Are you saying that you'd only accept
Your
one
witness.
witness? Oh, my witness, okay, yes, okay. Sharon Latrell?
Come on.
That's Sharon with the two eyes.
Let me introduce you and give them foundation. So Sharon Latrell, who I'm sure all of you know, lives here in Mendon, and she has a significant, more than a decade of experience in training dogs, service dogs with correction facilities, and specifically her area of expertise is the socialization of dogs with other dogs. She is also a published author on her experiences in this. So it's certainly our opinion that she's an expert on the issue of socializing dogs.
A book I read, by the way. Very
And
good.
you've read the book, and maybe by the end of the night, we can get you an autographed copy.
I already have one.
So, Sharon, it's my understanding that the two dogs came over the property, then Daisy followed them back over the property. And based on, could I see the pictures, please? Thank you. So, there's no dispute in the record that this is the area of which it happened in?
Yeah, that's not the area it happened in.
Okay, do you have a picture that shows the area?
Yeah,
On
that's
the
the
other
area.
side, it goes,
Well, no, I'm talking over the,
that's the border between our yards, that's not where the dogs are at.
okay, so why don't you show us a picture?
In front of the sheds.
Probably 40 yards on the left,
Okay.
which is where our dogs came from.
So 120 feet.
Sure.
Your shed appears to be about,
Probably about 20 feet from that stone wall, and then that dog is
This is our
probably
yard.
50 feet from that.
Right in front of these trees and rocks here is where this happened.
okay.
Our dogs did not enter their property.
About
So-
50 feet from our children's playground.
So if the dog is in the area of those trees, and it's my understanding that there was one behind it, and the Chihuahua was in front of it.
No, my big dog was I was petting her. Our big dog was standing right here, and our Chihuahua was over here with me.
In our yard.
When Mrs. LaRoe came over, is when Daisy attacked.
Okay. So if I could examine the witness, if you want to come up and testify, no problem. I'd be happy to have you. So if you have two dogs around another dog, and they don't know each other, and one dog's behind the dog, the other one's in the front of the dog, does that dog sense a defensive danger for its own protection?
Well, yeah, if a dog feels hemmed in or threatened in any way, we're really careful with the way that we expose dogs to other dogs, because you don't know how they're going to react, right? So,
Is this part of socializing dogs?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So if a dog feels threatened, it can react in a lot of different ways. It sounds like in this case, Daisy felt threatened and lashed out because of that threat. Minus the threat, with the threat not there, then there would be no problem. So as long as she, is not interacting with the dogs in any way, isn't feeling, that the dogs are hemming her in and limiting her movement, then she should be fine.
So, have you socialized other dogs? Probably dozens, if not hundreds, with other dogs, right? How do you do that?
You do it carefully. You do it with everybody on a leash. And the way that you do it is you have your dog and the other dog, and you just kind of pass by each other. You walk by each other, and then you'll walk together parallel with both, humans and dogs walking together. And if things seem to be going okay, once they're used to one another, then you can, let them interact, sniff each other. We wouldn't do one dog on two dogs. We wouldn't have two dogs who are familiar with each other being introduced to a third dog, because you just don't know what's going to happen. It could spark some,
Defensive
Right.
posture.
Right.
And if a dog believes that, under the statute, an exception is that if the dog is defending itself, it cannot be defined as a dangerous dog. It requires additional things, such not as defending itself. Have you spent any time with this dog?
Yes. Mhm.
And how did you spend time with this dog? Were you-
Just in the house, interacting with the
So
dog.
you asked to come over? Okay, you're not friends with this dog, they didn't get this dog
I
from you?
didn't know Daisy before this happened, no.
In your professional opinion, with more than a decade of experience in identifying the ability to socialize dogs with each other, and therefore clearly, actually, before I get there, are you on any boards?
Yes, I'm on the board of Yankee Golden Retriever Rescue, which is a breed-specific rescue in Hudson, Mass.
And what are some of the responsibilities you have on that board as it relates to vetting dogs?
Well, we're really in charge of the organization itself, and, we're just overseeing the
But do
organization.
you evaluate them to make sure they're not
But-
dangerous?
Oh, yeah, that's done, behavioral assessments are done, but what I can say is that when we bring dogs over from other countries or from other locations, and there's more than one dog in a separate, crate, when we take them out, we don't let them interact at all, because even though these dogs were probably together in a shelter before they came to us, with the new environment, we have them at the airport or somewhere, after bringing them over internationally, and in this new environment, and after having been through what they went through, we can't predict how they'll behave, so we keep them away from each other. That's
And
like
then you
critical.
start that process of socializing.
Yeah.
So in your time with this dog, did you form an opinion as to whether this was a dangerous dog?
Not to me, certainly not to me.
Was there anything that indicated to you that this dog was dangerous to people?
No, not to people. No. And the dog comes up to, like, I don't know, here on me.
It's clearly...
She's a big dog.
Yeah, it's a big
Yeah.
dog. And this is the same dog that you interacted
Yes.
with? And no issues?
No, did you have the dog with another dog? 'Cause the
I did
question
not,
has
I
never
did
been,
no, I did not bring my dog.
Of people aggression, it's been of dog aggression. So you never actually tested the dog with
Nope.
another dog? Okay.
But that does not meet the definition of a dangerous dog. An exception to the law, and council will advise you of this, and the board, is a dog defending its position, its own safety, or, and it talks about others, its owner, its offspring, its property, but a dog that believes it's in danger, defending itself, cannot be defined as a dangerous dog, based only on that. And there is no other history that I'm aware of. Anything else that you had about your observations of this dog?
I was impressed that the dog went on a school bus and was around other animals, so, that's a huge, that's enormous for a dog to do, because they've never, unless they've been socialized over time to be on a school bus and be in a school, then...
Is it possible that that dog did not have any negative interactions with all these other animals because it didn't feel threatened?
That's probably, yeah. Because it didn't go after any dogs that it was around in that environment, so.
And to the best of your knowledge, since the time of this incident, it's never gone after this dog since?
That's what I heard tonight, that's all I know.
So, Mrs. Luttrell, so you and I have known each other for a long time. I have an enormous amount of respect for you. And I was listening very carefully to everything you said. And now, obviously, you don't necessarily have to answer this, but I would like to know, if you were me and you were us, what would you do?
Well, the idea of tethering the dog really raises alarm bells for me, because I think if there is...
You don't like dogs on leashes, is that what you're saying?
No, if a dog is tethered, that can create that fear of, of being confined and not being able to protect his property, his territory, himself, his family. I would hate to think, I just wouldn't do that. I would not tether the dog. That's about as far as my...
And if the dog was really dangerous and you couldn't do anything else and that's all you had, what would you do?
If the dog was really dangerous and was attacking people, then the dog would have to be put down, clearly,
got it.
Yeah.
Or permanently restrained. So do you think this is a dangerous dog?
In my opinion, no.
Thank you.
The,
We're not suggesting that there weren't some mistakes here. We're just saying we don't have a dangerous dog by statute.
Can we go back?
so I'm looking
Well,
at,
hold on, did you have any more questions for her?
oh, I'm sorry, no, I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. But, Mr. Chairman, I do have a few follow-up questions. I have this text message thread in front of me, pretty extensive. I didn't get through all of it, I admit, but just very quickly, I notice that there are a series of vet bills here. It looked like there were some indications or attempts to take restitution on those vet bills. Did any of that happen already?
Yes, so the LaRose paid approximately $780 in vet bills.
Okay.
There's approximately $1,030 left in veterinary bills.
1,030? Okay.
So they called me and asked if they were required to. I said, no, they're not. Certainly, their counsel can have a different opinion based on the circumstances, but I indicated that they're not. I said, but look, if it's your neighbor and you like them and, their dogs went on your property, that's wrong. Your dog went on their property?
Yep.
And so they decided to pay that. Then they called me and said they have additionals. I said, no,
Yep.
you've done enough.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, when it comes to the vet bills, I don't think there's the authority of this board to sit there and push for that. That would be a small claims thing. So I'm going to take ourselves right out of that piece of it. I think, in my opinion, I've heard enough testimony. I would be comfortable if a more formal barrier was installed and an agreement between the owners, the dog officer, and the plaintiffs here could come to an agreement on that, then I would be comfortable with some sort of barrier that's in place. But I definitely want something in place. That's my
It'll
opinion.
just be,
I got a couple more questions. Oh, sorry.
Let's just hear.
If I could just say one more thing, I think
Just,
one
if
of
you
the
would
things-
just come up,
Yep,
I know,
Sure.
just so people can hear.
I think one of the things that perhaps has been overlooked or slightly missed is that this wasn't just a bite and release. I have the information from the veterinarian here. Her dog was bit 5 separate times in this incident. Her muscle was ripped away from her tissue. She spent well over a month rehabbing from this. It was not a one-time bite and release. This is a dog who came after our dog several times, picked her up, and was shaking her. Our dog is at
During the one instant.
during this incident. Our child is at eye level with that dog. And I would challenge your witness to ethically tell me that that's not something that could be dangerous for my child if that dog comes back into our yard. And I would challenge you to consider your own children, grandchildren, nieces or nephews in that situation.
I get, I think,
Do you have,
sorry. I'm sorry.
What do you have right there? Is that
This
something?
is the medical records, extensive medical records for over a month of care that our animal received.
We do not disagree that the animal was injured.
Badly injured. It wasn't just injured.
Badly injured.
Mr.
Terribly
Chairman,
injured.
questions? Yeah, so do I hear you saying that you would not be amendable to a protective barrier?
No, I'm absolutely am, as long as it's not just an electric fence. I do not believe the electric fence is going to keep this animal off of our property. And frankly, it's subject to human error. An electric fence is subject to human error.
Mr. Reel, I think there's a question from the audience. I'm not sure if you want to.
You had a question.
Yeah, you can go to Mr. LaRue first if you want.
Mr. LaRue?
Good evening, Board of Selectmen, thank you. My name is Richard LaRue, 51 Blackstone Street, Mendon, Massachusetts. There's a lot of feelings here at court tonight. A lot of people have concerns and worries. I asked the board to consider the facts. I'm a big 300-pound guy, but if I start crying in front of you, I might pull a tear from your eye as well. So if we can try to keep our minds focused on the facts, and I'd like to give you some facts. Earlier, you heard testimony from the people looking for the order, saying that the dogs come on their property many times. Well, if I understand correctly, they've lived there for a couple of years now, and my dog has never attacked anything over there. I have 11 acres of land. I exercise my right to farm process in town. I have cattle. Seasonally, I have pigs, I have chickens, I have ducks, I've had goats, and my dog has never killed any of my animals. It's not coincidence that in this circumstance, when my dog bit this dog, there was 2 dogs running around it, and my wife was walking toward the situation. I'd like you to keep that in mind as well. There's a little confusion about this electric fence. There was no electric fence in place when this happened. What we had was one of those collars that'll make noise. You have a little remote control, and if you're outside with your dog, you can hit a button, and it'll make music on the control, and if you keep hitting the higher setting, it'll eventually shock them. After this incident, we did go out and we purchased an invisible fence on the ground, and I installed approximately 2,500 feet of wire, and I've given the dog a 4-acre area to be able to move about freely in. Since that fence has been in place, that dog has not broken that barrier. I feel for me to put in a physical structure barrier to line this stone wall, we're talking about a fence that's going to be about 800 feet long. And outside of using that plastic construction fencing that the elements took down, doing anything else it's cost prohibitive. Keeping the dog on a lead, I don't do that with my cattle. I don't do that with my livestock. I'm going to do it with my dog that for 5 years now has been able to live freely and roam around this property. I also find it a coincidence that when the incident first happened, and if you go through and you take the time to look at all the text, they sent my wife a copy of the bill from the text. I said to my wife, to be good neighbors, let's just go ahead and reimburse them for the vet bill. Over the next couple of days, as you read the text, my wife checked in, and Ronnie, the dog's name is Ronnie, Ronnie was doing better. We didn't hear anything from them again for about 4 to 6 weeks. There was no dangerous dog hearing talk, there was no nothing. And all of a sudden, after about 6 weeks, we get a text with pictures of more vet bills, equaling over $1,000. We were taken by surprise. I mean, if they flew the dog to Switzerland for some experimental surgery, are we obligated to pay? They took it to the local Mendon clinic, they took it to Tufts, they took it to a vet every day without even telling us that they were pursuing more medical treatment to the dog. We got blindsided with another $1,000 bill. So my wife called our attorney, talked to my attorney about it. He said, well, geez, it was really nice of you to pay the first one because legally you weren't even obligated to do that because it's a dog fight. It could happen in the park, it could happen in your yard, it could happen in their yard. It's a dog that was scared, and it bit. So my wife responded to her text saying, "We spoke with our attorney, we're willing to reimburse you half of the total medical expenses." So for an additional $100 and something, that would represent half of the total $1,700. She sent them the text, they didn't like it, they said, "You'll be hearing from our attorney." We don't hear anything from 3 weeks, and all of a sudden, my wife gets a call from the dog officer saying that there's a dangerous dog hearing. I hope that this board, taxpayer money, with everything that's going on in the town, and you have on your shoulders, I hope your resources aren't being used as a tool to punish me and my wife for not paying all of their medical expenses.
Thank you.
Mr. Reel, I just have a follow-up question for Attorney Horn in his with Sharon Luttrell. Sharon, can you come back up? His witness.
Go ahead.
Sharon, just one question. I assume you have experience with the electric fences?
I don't, actually.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No,
okay.
we don't use them.
Well, all right, so let me frame the question this way then. Could you see a dog, if it was felt threatened in any way, going through an electric fence to go after another dog?
I know dogs do. Dogs will, it's certainly not unheard of that dogs will breach, they'll just allow themselves to be shocked so they can
Shocked,
get
it
to
goes through
whatever.
it. And would you agree with the testimony that we heard tonight that a dog coming back might not be able to get back in his yard because now he's concerned?
I've heard that.
Okay. All right, so I'm all set with you, questioning
If I
you.
could just have one quick follow-up
Sure.
on that. For a dog to be threatened, would it be threatened by a dog 100 feet away in
No.
the woods? When would it be
It would
threatened?
bark, it might bark at the
Sure.
dog, but
When would it feel threatened?
if the dog came into its yard, if the dog,
Thank you.
Okay.
What about prey drive?
if the dog has a strong prey drive, and I did have a dog, one of the dogs that I puppy raised had a strong prey drive, and that the dog would go after whatever it saw, a bird or a cat. I can't speak to this situation. I don't know if, I've never heard of a dog, who's had that experience before going back. Because it smells the presence of the dog. It seems to me that as long as the dog is not visible or, is not in his yard.
Or just over a rock wall. Is it possible?
If the dog had a high prey drive, which, I'm not speaking to Daisy. I don't know whether
I can't speak
Daisy
to theirs either,
has
but-
been sent to an animal behaviorist may be able to determine whether Daisy has a strong prey drive. This one attack, because there are other circumstances, because the dog had the other dogs in front of and behind it, I don't know if you can say that, I wouldn't call that his attack. I wouldn't say it was caused by a prey drive. It seems to me that it was caused because he felt threatened.
Okay.
So I think you need to distinguish between an attack because the dog felt threatened and an attack because the dog wanted to get at something.
Okay, and then the other question I have here, is there a level of defense that you would find suitable if a dog felt threatened? So, for instance, when going through animal control officer training, there's several different styles of bites, as you know. There's a bite where if a dog's very aggressive, they'll bite and retreat. There's a bite where they'll bite and hold on. And then there's a bite where they'll bite and shake.
I can't speak to that. That's not my area.
Okay, no, I wasn't sure if it was or not.
So the statute speaks to that.
So, Mrs. Luttrell, is your belief of what happened here, does it change, your assessment change, if you were to find out that actually it didn't happen in the LaRouge yard, it actually happened in their yard?
I know it happened in their
If you found,
yard. It did, I know it happened in their yard.
We've indicated that.
oh, I thought we said before.
Yeah. No.
I thought you said happened in-
Absolutely happened in their yard.
Okay.
Their dogs came into
heard
LaRouge
something
yard,
different.
and then Daisy followed them back. But if I could just say one thing on this, the prey drive. First of all, we have no evidence been introduced of prey drive. We have a statement made by a veterinarian who's never examined the doctor. We have testimony from Mr. LaRue that he had chickens, goats, and gosh, whatever else. Those would be determined to be prey and have never had any injury. The statute specifically says if the dog was reacting to another animal, the question is if it was grossly disproportionate in its response. So what's grossly disproportionate? Obviously, that would be for the trier of fact, for you to decide. But if the dog feels threatened and it bites this dog multiple times in 2 to 3 seconds or 20 seconds and never has an interaction with that dog again, is that grossly disproportionate? I would argue that it isn't. And the statute clearly states
From the nuisance dog
that.
section, not the dangerous dog
I'm
section.
sorry?
In the bylaw, I believe that's from the nuisance dog section, not the dangerous dog
No,
section.
that, you would be incorrect. That's chapter 150, 140, section 157, which your bylaw must comply with.
Okay, so,
And it says it right in your, ma'am, it says it right in your own bylaws. It shall meet the definition requirements of chapter 140, section 157.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. LaRue, can I ask you one quick question? So the electric fence that you did, 2 questions. The electric fence that you did install, what was the date it was up and running?
Mr. Leckman, I'm gonna have to estimate, because without the receipt, we have the receipt at home. I apologize, we didn't think of bringing it.
That's okay.
It was between 2 to 3 weeks after the bite occurred.
Okay, so if you just pick a date that you could say that there's no chance it wasn't in by this date. June 1st?
May 5th.
May 5th. Okay, that far back.
Yeah, between May 5th and May 19th. I'm just
Okay,
looking
cool.
at my calendar.
All right, second question, is the collar itself, does it
Yes.
have a battery?
No.
Yes, it does, sir.
It has a battery,
But
okay.
it sings if it gets low and it flashes.
Yeah, I know mine does too, but we still miss it.
Okay.
So every once in a while, what happens is we forget the damn thing burned out, and next thing you know, the dog's across the street, and, so there is a somewhat of an element of human error. Okay, thanks, that's all I need to know, thank you.
Mark, if I may? So, Mr. Horn, I got one more follow-up question, please. So, I think I heard you say earlier that your clients aren't objecting to doing some sort of barrier.
Absolutely not. We want to work with the neighbors. They want to be neighborly. We want to try to do the right thing. Our only, this hasn't even been brought up, but they have additional liability insurance, well in excess of what the town has requested. They want to work with them.
Yeah,
They
I'm
just
not,
don't want the
I'm not
dog
I'm not
jumping.
questioning that, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to get into
Yeah.
the... And this has nothing, excuse me, I just want to say this one point to Mr. LaRue. This has nothing to do with the vet bills, that's beyond our control.
Right.
All right, so this is more
One
about
of
a
the
safety
things your
issue.
dog officer asked for was liability insurance of
Yeah.
$100,000. We have, I
I saw
believe,
that.
$500,000.
Okay.
No issue there. We
Yeah.
just have an issue with the tethering. And I'm not an expert on electric wireless fences. But if that isn't working well, if there's a problem with that, then we have to go back and look at something else.
So what I heard in respect to a barrier, are we talking about a physical barrier? Or are we classifying the...
Well, I originally kind of envisioned a fence, to be honest with you, but now I understand the size of the property, cost prohibitive, so it would seem to me we should be starting somewhere lower than that. And again, because we only have one incident, no other incidents of any kind, and this is a dog that is welcome in a public school. It doesn't meet the standard of dangerousness. We're not disagreeing that there weren't some problems here. It doesn't meet the statute.
Yeah, I'm actually put in a tough position here because I'm hearing 2 different testimonies. It's very sensitive. As Selectman Schofield said earlier, I've never been in one of these. I've been on the board. It's my 4th year. Obviously, we want to, one, sir.
If the dog was badly injured on my property, is there any dispute?
No,
No,
none whatsoever.
no.
I just want to make sure that we're clear.
No.
That dog came on our property.
So that's where I'm...
Mostly damaged the dog.
After your dog trespassed on their
That is
property, that's
hearsay,
correct.
It's actually not true.
All right, I'm not going to allow that,
All
right.
I'm not going to allow that back and forth, but I would say that what I'm trying to get to is common ground in respect to a barrier. All right, so a barrier to me is something that has four corners that a dog can't escape. That's a barrier to me, but it's all on how you define a barrier.
Yeah.
I would be amendable, in my opinion, Mr. Chairman, I would be amendable to something that if I don't think it wants to be a Hatfield-McCoy type of situation here where the neighbors are now battling over this. I think the neighbors want to be good and neighborly. It's what is good and neighborly, what is going to appease both sides. How do we reconcile that? I think that's what we're trying to determine right now,
And
from
be
my
careful about a
standpoint.
precedent that we set for the rest of the town.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think every situation's different.
Well, they are, but if we're going to take the position that every time a dog bites a dog, then someone has to put a 6-foot-high fence around their property,
Yeah,
I'm not sure
Well-
that will survive judicial review.
yeah, I don't know.
Something needs to be done, we don't disagree,
Yeah.
we're welcome to work with
Yeah,
them.
I just don't
We
understand.
don't meet the standard.
Yeah.
We close.
All right,
Because we decide after we close, right?
Right.
Okay. I move to close the public hearing for dangerous dog hearing.
Second.
Is there any further comments?
What does that mean?
We're
We have to
ending
come out of the hearing, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're ending the public comments or the comments section, and then we're coming out of the hearing, we're going to just make a decision.
Okay.
So I have a question. If you guys do deem the fact that, you don't feel like you should put up a permanent barrier, enclosure, however you want to phrase it, and that we are going to rely on an electric fence, who is going to witness the functionality of this electric fence and how it controls this dog?
What happens if
How do we have
it's barrier?
proof that the electric fence, number one, exists, number two, is functional, and will retain this dog? Who's gonna gather this evidence?
testify to it being functional, right?
Mr. Chairman, we have no objections to
mean,
the
if I-
animal control overseeing.
So,
We don't.
obviously.
And my concern is that we don't get a barrier, and this is the only thing we have to rely on, and we don't have any faith in that to begin with. So I want to see that there's some regulation of anything that's been heard here tonight.
I thought I heard, and I could be wrong, but I thought that I heard, Mr. Chairman, that there's an electric fence barrier up right now, and the owners were willing to do something above and beyond that. Is that correct?
And there have been no incidents. According to the complaint.
I'm waiting for an answer on that. Can you answer that question clearly?
Could you state again, please?
Sure. There's a current electric fence in place right now, and I'm to the understanding that the owner's willing to do something above and beyond that. Is that correct?
Is that correct, Mr. LaRue?
Just from the clean getaway.
I'm sorry, Mark,
Just from the clean getaway.
There is a newly installed electric fence. The charger for it, the generator, for lack of better words, is installed in the chicken coop. It's inspected every day when my wife collects her eggs. Whenever it's out of function, it makes a god-awful noise. I am willing to put up some fencing. I asked the board to recognize I have 11 acres. So to encompass my property is just not financially feasible. I'd be better off getting rid of the dog and getting another one that looks just like it. I'm willing to put a fence between their property and my property for the length of their property line.
With the, I don't want to try to broker a deal here, but
Sounds like you have.
are you guys amenable to that?
The only concern that I have is that for the length, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that they're willing to have this conversation. I think that the length of the property line doesn't include the dogs. It should easily come around it. As Willa Rose stated, they own quite an extensive amount of property. So for me, I would feel more comfortable with the dog being in a fenced-in area. I would never assume that they can fence their entire property. I would not assume that.
Would it be possible if you went, if you went the length of their property and then brought the two corners into your house to make a pen-style area where you have a section of your yard fenced off, where she can come out your door and be in this fenced area. Is that a possibility?
Unfortunately not, because again, it's 11 acres. I have miscellaneous livestock all around the property. I have a tractor, and I drive around the house and the property with the tractor, so I'd be cutting off access to my property with, being able to move around with my farm tractor.
No, just,
I renew my motion to close the hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, second, sorry, that was clarifying information for me,
that's
so
fine.
sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
he said it's around 4 of his 11 acres.
Now,
Well, should we express our positions?
He said there's 25 feet of wire.
Okay, so the first thing I would say is I believe every single word that comes out of these people's mouth. There's no question about it. The only question to me is what the right solution is. I'm going to tell you that electric fence for us works phenomenally. Now, even if the fence doesn't work, if the fence goes down, the proof that the fence is down or not working is if the dog comes over. Right? The dog's not coming over. The fence is probably up. I mean, anything could always happen. So my personal opinion is that we should do, that he should do a fence the length of the border of the two properties and the electric fence. And if the dog comes in the yard after this and they file another complaint, I'm going to be saying, you're tying that damn thing up. Just one more time. That's my position.
that makes sense to me. In the meantime, between the time that the fence would be put up, should we say that the dog has to be tethered in that time frame?
If they've got the electric fence up, I don't think that's necessary. Again, I got a dog that, believe me, if she could get out of that electric fence, she'd do it.
I'm fine with that. I'm comfortable with both the electric fence and as additional barrier, putting the fence up in between the two properties. I think the dog's gonna have to work pretty hard to get over to your property. I think it's a good faith effort by the LaRue's to try to help solve this problem.
I would ask one request. Where our properties meet, my property is very narrow. This is a road goes. So the actual property line that I have back there might be no longer than 100 yards. It then goes to our neighbor's property, which the dog's also been around on that property, which could walk around that pretty easily. His driveway goes 150, 200 yards down Blackstone Street. If we could extend that fence maybe a little further than the very narrow contact patch between our two properties, if we could come to an agreement on that, I think I would feel a little better about having a one-sided fence to protect my lawn.
No objection.
Well, let's determine the distance beyond the point.
No objection working with them. We haven't heard anything that sounds like a major issue, but sometimes we get all
I want to be clear that we're not trying to make any statement here, and we'll deal with the bills how we deal with the bills. I'm not worried about that either. I want to know that we have the support of this town and the agreement with our neighbor that nobody wants anybody's animals on anybody else's property. And I'd like to take the steps to make sure it doesn't happen. That's the only thing I'm concerned with.
There is, I don't know about the other two gentlemen, but there is no question in my mind about the rightness of where you're coming from.
And if I didn't have, my folks had an electric fence, and their dog used to run through it all the time. He was a scent hunting dog, and it would never keep him in the yard. That's why I don't have a lot of confidence in those fences.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure it differs by dog.
It sounded like it was amendable to work with you, that the LaRue's have said that they'll put the fence up, they've put the electric fence in, they're taking steps, they've paid, some money towards your vet bills. I'm happy that they're making an effort to try to work with you, at least.
who's going to broker this interaction between the LaRue's and myself about when this fence is going up and when and how long it's going to be?
I think, well, we recommend the dog officer, right? I'm sorry, can't call you dog officer anymore, the statute's changed. Animal control.
So the animal control officer, Mr. LaRue and myself will take a walk and talk about where that's going to go.
If you need to, you know what I would do? I suggest, you guys have a conversation.
Should we just predetermine 30 feet beyond the end and finish the boundary?
Can you and I maybe just take a walk back there and take
Yeah.
a look at what the expectation is?
That's what you guys should do. Take a walk together and talk. Frankly, if the
I'm
rest of
okay
us
with
are
it.
out of
That's
it,
fine
I think
with
you're
me.
gonna do just fine. Yeah, and if not, we'll come back.
When this is completed by.
So, Mr. Chairman, just for clarity, you're dismissing, you will find that the dog is not dangerous?
Well, we're working on
Okay.
that.
That's what I'm asking. Not dangerous, but you are ordering that this action be taken, are you finding
Okay,
that
does
the
it,
dog
does it, does it,
is
does it,
dangerous?
does it matter whether we define that or not?
It does. It gives your decision a little more credibility. It also is a label on the dog. I
Okay.
would not put in your decision anything about if the dog goes into the property again.
Understood,
That I
yeah.
would not do.
Yeah, right, just for what we get.
Those are really,
But on this section, this is
So, Mr. Chairman, if I might, we expect that they have not met the standard for a dangerous dog and that it'll be dismissed. However, we agree to adopt additional guidance from the board.
and it shouldn't be a dangerous dog?
No, I'm saying, but this is saying that at the time of it, his thing is saying that it can't be a dangerous dog
Definition
because
again.
it would have
I
breached.
just want to read the definition.
Time of the attack, the code wasn't breached.
I think that yeah, so maybe he isn't a dangerous dog at all.
No, what I'm saying is I'm saying, he's saying it's not a dangerous dog because there was a closure.
You know what the,
What I'm saying.
He's saying two different things.
It's with justification.
Part that he's also saying
saying
There's
unjustified, how do you
trespass.
know if it's unjustified or not?
the dog that got...
I could be heard on that definition.
The dangerous dog
Yes.
definition.
So your bylaw is required under law to comply with Chapter 140 and the appropriate sections.
My understanding
Chapter 140, Section 136A provides you with the only definition that you may use for a dangerous dog. That definition is dangerous dog, quote, a dog that either, without justification, attacks a person or domestic animal causing physical injury or death, or behaves in a manner that a reasonable person would believe poses an unjustified, imminent threat of physical injury or death to a person or domestic animal. This dog has spent time at the school, this dog has spent time with your dog officer, doesn't meet the definition.
That's what I was trying to, that's why I wanted to reread
That is
this.
the requirement you must...
That's why I wanted to reread the definition.
he meets a nuisance dog.
Okay,
I don't know that I think he meets
Counsel.
dangerous dog.
can I read you what I got and you tell me if it's all right?
Why don't you read it not out loud?
I was just going to read out loud, but anyway. So I move to declare the LaRose dog not dangerous. However, we ask that the LaRose and Shanahan's enter into a discussion about the length of the fence and the LaRose install agreed length fence in cooperation with the animal control officer.
In addition to keeping their electric fence up and running.
Yeah.
Other side from here. And appeal it.
Yeah, no, I know.
So I don't think there should be a dog. They should work it out.
Okay.
So,
Here we go.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, God, my writing's horrible here. I'm just going to have to transcribe
you
this
can
quick.
read
I
As long
can,
as you can read it, that's all that matters.
but then only for 5 minutes. 5 minutes go by, I won't be able to read it again. Okay, I move to declare the LaRose dog not dangerous. However, we ask that the LaRose and the Shanahans enter into a discussion about the length and the LaRose install agreed length of fence in cooperation with the animal control officer, in addition to agreeing to properly maintain the existing electric fence.
Second.
Further
No
discussion?
objection, we agree.
All in favor?
I have a comment.
Hold on. Time out.
Excuse me?
Wait.
neither, the hearing's been closed, and they've made a motion, and they're just
Discussions.
making their own deliberation and their own decision, so there could be, well, I didn't get to open my mouth fast enough to suggest that he not speak either.
unreasonable, unfortunately, you guys said you're not gonna make a decision.
We're done.
The hearing's closed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next topic of discussion.
What's that?
Police station project.
Do you want me here for anything further?
Kim, do we need counsel for anything else?
I don't know.
I don't see anything that I don't think so.
You want to stay for Trask, Cindy?
What is that?
Trask property?
Sure.
I know Bob's handling
Bob's
that.
been working on it, and my only concern is I knew what was going on last week. I'm not sure I have the most recent information,
It's
but
fine.
I'm happy
sure,
to.
I'm sure Ann can handle it.
Yeah, I think
I know he has been talking to Ann.
Ann's got, Ann,
I just know it's changed so many times.
and you don't need counsel for Trask, right? Okay. Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you.
Good job, guys. This was a tough one.
That was hard.
Rare occasion. Thank you.
We have so
We're here
many things
late
on this
tonight.
agenda. At the end. Just kidding. You're somewhere in the middle.
Is this one mine? I assume?
Hey, Don, this discussion better be easier than the last one.
I will be.
That's a good question.
Is it working?
Oh, ask Dave.
Well, it's a good thing we're talking about a police station tonight, not a fire station. I got your back, don't worry.
You know what, I have never heard anybody complain. I'll tell you, it's just my dog and damn good, unless I forget to replace the dog. Which does happen.
How are you?
We're having some technical problems, so you have hard copies. I'm not sure if everyone else can see. This thing isn't going to work.
Aren't you a technical guru?
Hey, I'm not gonna help him. He's gonna sink or swim on his own.
There's a team,
It was working earlier, but
There's no signal. Which connection are you using? You using the DB9? Using the DB9 connector?
no, this doesn't have an HDMI. No one use VGA.
Yeah, so using yeah, right. Because that thing doesn't, oh, it says it's doing something.
I think that projector's dying. We've been trying to.
Oh, here we go.
hey!
That's the way to decide to work.
All right, so good evening. We're here, let's see, it's cutting out again. I think it's the
Okay,
projector.
just- Yeah, let's.
Just pap it.
Police Station Building Committee, we have Vice Chair Tim Icardi. Joe Cronin isn't able to make it tonight. We have our architects, Mike McKeon and Kevin Witzel from Kessel Booze, and we have our project manager, Mary Bulso. Chief is here, and Linda Thompson. I'm Don Moran.
John,
we wanna just give
real
you a-
quick, sorry to interrupt.
I can't hear
Folks,
you.
could we subdue conversations, please? Thank you.
So we just want to give you an update on the police station building project. So just give you a little bit of the history to start off. As you know, we had the concept design from Kessel Booze back in early 2017. I don't know why this, I think it's the projectors have,
I'm
but
following
you have
you
hard
here, so.
copies. So back in January, February 2017, Kessel Booze put 4 design options together. Yeah, it's the projector. And they gave us an opinion of probable cost back in March. We had about 11,576 square foot building, $5 million project. We went to the town for appropriation of the funds, and they got approved in May of 2017.
Oh, boy.
And you can't really see very well, but the sketches are there from what we went to the town meeting for. Since then, beginning of this year, we developed some schematics with the architect Opinion and probable cost showed about a $265,000 overage in the February-March timeframe, so we figured we had some work to do. So we came up with a couple of different designs. We refer them there as designs options A and B. That was in the April and May timeframe. It was originally based on the original design that we went to the town meeting for back in 2017. We got our geotechnical report in May. We discovered unsuitable soils on this property, which we shared with you, which, if you want to go into a little detail of unsuitable, there's stuff in the soils that won't support the weight of a new building. So we have to remove those soils and replace it with good soil to support the structure. So we came up with some ideas saying, hey, maybe we should put a basement in. If we're going to have to dig down 8 feet, let's come up with new designs. So the architect came up with some new designs. We went through a couple of revisions there. So we came up with designs C and D, just a couple of new designs. Chief met with the architect, tried to scale down the drawings, tried to come up with some different options. Our preferred option was this option C, which I'll show you in the next slide. You have the hard copies. It's unfortunately about $1.2 million over budget, and we'll go into the details why. So then we came up, well, okay, maybe we can come up with something else. Option D was a different one. Moved some stuff around, tried to save some costs, but it compromised the program. We tried to move the Sally Port to the front of the building. We couldn't pull out into the street. It caused some issues. So then we said, okay, now let's go back and start over again and look at something completely different, which is why we're here tonight.
So, Don, that's yet another option? Sorry, you're saying you've got yet another option? Okay, got it.
I'll share that with you tonight.
Okay.
We've gone through many, many different options.
All right.
I'm going to try to print some copies.
That's why I was having a heart attack.
Okay.
You're right, I didn't hear.
So,
We moved away from options.
and on slide 5, you'll see the site. Essentially, we're looking at the site plan. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Sorry.
You want to, you're not my house in your mind.
So the site plan for option C, this is what we were looking at. It basically had, we're looking at just this half of the property, which with that red line, and it shows you the topography of the main part of the building. Basically the former fire station, and then the section, the second addition to the building.
So I'm confused. Why is it that, removal and changeover of the soil is going to add 1.2 million
Well,
to
we're going to
this?
go, okay, so basically, why don't we just skip right to that? So basically, option C was just showing you the different options and what the actual design was. Slide 12 shows you the summary of the costs of that option. Basically, construction's $4.75 million. We have some parts of the structure, as we talked about a year ago, that we weren't going to complete. We're going to have BVT do. We're just going to buy some materials. It's basically lockers, fitness room, stuff like that, some of the things that the chief doesn't have today. So that's a couple $100,000 just for materials. And then we were looking at a second egress off the property. We're working with the butter to try to get some secondary access. That's another couple $100,000. So with that, plus all the owner's costs, it comes out to $6.2 million. The next slide summarizes the cost increases, and I can turn it over to the architect to give you the summary of those overages. You want to?
Thank you. All right, so we put, we listed here, we did an analysis of the current estimate in comparison with the concept level estimate, and here are some of the things that are different. The unsuitable soils, of course, and there is a component of that on the site. There's also a component under the building. The hazmat abatement, which when we did the concept drawings, in fact, it was shown as, zero because we had no information regarding hazmat at that time. The fire pump and cistern, that was not in the estimate originally. Utilities, the cost of utilities, now that they're actually been designed, are much higher than at the time. A retaining wall and guardrail, That was for that secondary entrance, because we now also have a survey complete, so we know what the difference in the grades are. We had originally thought we could do that with simply grading off and sloping the ground. It wasn't possible with the grade changes. In the addition itself, there are several things that I've called upon. Metals, there's a ramp in, if you look at the plan of C, you'll see that the back part of C is down 2 feet 6 inches. There's also a basement, but the ramp added cost, and the metals for rails on the ramp, and also the stairs. The fire suppression was added to the attic area. We did not originally have that in the attic. We had it as part of the build-out, but it has to be protected. And I think a huge difference is the unit prices in adding some minimal HVAC and electric work in the attic. Remember, the original was to have no, the build-out was separate. However, one thing I want to point out, the build-out in option C is not in the attic. It's actually in the basement level. In other words, the locker rooms, fitness room, we moved it from the attic level down to the basement. And there was some earthwork under that addition because of the taking out the unsuitable soils, but the advantage to having a basement is you don't have to put them back. You don't have to replace them. The renovation to the fire station itself, the building is actually larger than the plans that we were given when we started, not by a lot, but a little bit when we actually measured it. The restoration of the facade in terms of cleaning, repointing bricks, taking care of chipped areas, things like that, added cost. Bullet resistance, we do have a large area in front of the building where we're replacing the overhead doors with aluminum storefront to replicate the look of the doors. So we're adding some bullet-resistant glass to that. There's some miscellaneous equipment in that area, the fire suppression again in the attic, and the large difference in the unit prices between a year ago, actually a year and some months ago, and now. We did, in the original estimate done in April of 2017, contemplate escalation through the end of the year. And what's happened is there has been a lot of escalation, and I think it has to do with the amount of work that's out there. So the bid prices nowadays have outstripped what the escalation is that we considered originally in the project.
So what I hear you saying is the majority of this is the scope creep, the unpredictable soil conditions.
Well, scope creep from...
I'm sorry, market creep.
Market creep, and I think the difference between a concept design and actually working out all the details and what that implies in terms of cost.
So my frustration here is, why do we go to the people with a number based on a concept design? I thought we had a more solid number than that.
Yeah, me too.
So it disappoints me that we're talking about 1.2 million on top of, or severe, what do I want to say, compromises.
So,
because what I'm seeing here, right, all this is not that we said we wanted more, it's just that, oops, now that we get into it, what you ask for is going to cost more, right? That's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Well, I find
well,
that
most
very
of
frustrating.
it, most of that you're correct. I'd say the only ones that you're not correct about is the unsuitable soils. They wouldn't have known that up front.
No, I get that.
Yeah, okay.
But that's all stuff that, in order to do what we asked them to do, them looking into it in detail, they discovered this is what it's gonna cost us this much more to do what we asked to do because of the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't understand where you just went, because you just went in two
Okay,
different
so
directions.
I get that some of this stuff is something they couldn't have known until they started digging.
That's
I get
right.
that, right?
That's right.
But but it would seem to me that at least 75% of this should have been predictable. and we should have added the original number.
So I don't disagree with you. What I'm saying is,
That means you agree with me? I'm just trying to be sure.
really? All right, we'll try this again. So I don't disagree with you, Selectman Schofield. What I'm saying is that the unpredictable market creep, which the market creep is, but I can understand that, why we would miss on the market creep.
I don't know what that means. What's that mean, Mike?
That means basically the demand in the trades right now is so great that it's boosting the cost to do construction through the roof.
Got it, yeah.
There's a lot of work out there.
All right, so that's unpredictable. They put an escalator in their bid, it went above their escalator. All right, so I can give them a pass on that. I can give them a pass on the soils. Everything else, you're 1,000% correct, in my opinion. All right? Sorry, Mike, I just took that from you. Sorry.
Fire pumping system.
I was going to ask that.
Well, I mean, we got a 20% escalation in the project. That's extreme. That's not market creep.
You're absolutely right.
That's not market creep. This should have all been sought out long before we took it to the people.
Well,
I mean, it seems like every project we get into is these situations. I mean, we should have learned from the mistakes in the past. I mean, these can't continue to happen. The taxpayers are not going to want to fund another $1 million.
what I would say is that a normal feasibility study would have included things like survey, geotechnical, all of that stuff in the study. That was not really what was contemplated here. What we did is do a program and a concept. So some of these things that we really should have known were not included in the estimate that was done based on that concept. I will say that we've worked on other options to try and get those costs down, and as Don said, we were within $100,000 on one of the options, which we were calling D prime, but it was found to be, it was found to compromise a lot of the program requirements for the building. So what we have been developing recently is an option E, which was based on C, and I have some drawings.
Probably 16.
Got it, I got it.
And we think there are several advantages to going with option C, E, I'm sorry. And I don't know if you want to go through and look at the plans, or if you want to get to the numbers, but essentially that's the plan. We've pulled the floor plan together in that we have the basement exactly under the first floor instead of only a partial basement as what we had in C. And we're not relying on any space in the attic to be built out for any use. It's just there for future expansion. So, okay, so you can see what the building would look like. There are some elevations, I think, the front and the back. And I want to talk to you about some of the advantages to that, unless, did you want to go through the? Okay. So we'll talk about the schedule. This is a schedule that we've developed based on being right here, right now, if we are allowed to go forward with option E. And so we can go, like many towns do nowadays, and go to town meeting with an actual number in hand to see if you do require more money. Again, we're trying to cut back on the cost. We're trying to be as efficient as possible. And as I said, I think there are a lot of advantages to the option E approach. I can go through those if you want me to.
Can we work backward? Tell me how much more expensive than $5 million is option E.
Well, we don't have an estimate yet, only because we just came up with this concept last week. We're going to, what we would like to do is finish developing it and get a real estimate based on the DD level, which would be pretty complete. We see a lot of inherent advantages to this approach. We believe it will be considerably less expensive than the option C, which is the option that is over budget by more than $1 million. And some of the, no. Well, I could read it off there if, yeah. Well, the schedule simply shows you that if we're allowed to go forward, we can have a number in hand by November 6th, the date for the town election. But again, we believe that this program, option E, that we are developing, fully meets the program. It has some inherent advantages.
What are the top 3 compromises we make with the option E?
No, it's really a different approach. It doesn't, the program, the only compromise to the program is, since we have now, we don't have a separate conference room, the training room, which we've made bigger, can be used as a backup conference room. But it keeps all the active spaces, all the operational spaces on one level. What is in the basement now is simply the sally port, detention, mechanical spaces, IT support, electrical, those kinds of things. So it's a lot more efficient than option C, the layout. It requires the big advantage to having a basement in the building is that we don't have to put back the unsuitable soils that have to be taken out behind the fire station. So we're taking advantage of, we take it away, we build a basement, we don't have to put it back. So option E also has a lower parking lot as well as a walkout, and it's a walkout basement, so you enter at grade. We're not, as I said before, we're not using any of the attic spaces for program. It's all for additional space, storage, and future use. It has a smaller footprint than option C, so there's less impervious surface or water to retain. So we save a little bit on the stormwater drainage. We do not need an elevator. We have incorporated, because there is always the possibility of someone needing to speak with a detainee and having to go downstairs, but we're able to do that, and with a lift inside of the stair. We've been successful doing that with the Architectural Access Board in the past. So in other words, there's grade egress on both the lower level and the main level, so there's no question about handicap accessibility. It moves the regional dispatch or communications area out of being on the periphery of the building into the center of the building, so it's a more protected area. We don't have to spend as much money protecting it from the outside. And as I said, this approach is inherently less expensive because, again, the basement lines up with the main level, and we're not using any of the upper space for any program spaces or even mechanical or electrical spaces.
Well, it's less expensive than C, but it's not less expensive than $5 million.
No.
It's going to cost us something more, is what you're saying, in order to do E, as designed.
Yes. We believe it will be more than $5 million.
well, I don't know about you gentlemen, but I'm just, I'm unwilling to do any, as far as I'm concerned, whatever we can do for 5 million, that's what we get. Pure and simple. We went through massive financial engineering to get where we are. We told the people amended something, we promised the people amended something, and I'm unwilling to go back on that myself, but.
Bill? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
So what our recommendation was from the committee is at least proceed forward with the new design. It's a smaller footprint. We expect it to be less than the, $6 million option. We don't know how much less. We want to move forward with that. We'd like to let the architect move forward with design, construction, and put it out to bid. The only way to really find out how much this is really going to cost is to put it out to bid. We'd like to do that. We'd like to do it in the timeline that we outlined for you on an earlier slide. Basically, design development for the next 7 weeks, come up with an estimate, we'll approve it as a building committee. We'll then put it out, get the construction documents, get an estimate on that, put it out to bid, and see what we get. We get 5.2, we get 5.1, we get 5.9. I don't know what we get, but we want to at least proceed forward with the smaller design to figure out how much over we are. Then we can, once we get those bids, we hope to get them in a timely manner so that we can then put it back to the Board of Selectmen and say, we need, do you want us to cut services? Do you want us to cut funding? Whatever. Or do you want to go back and see if there are other available funds available? So we wanted to at least have the discussion. You've already made yourself clear, do you want to put a placeholder on the ballot in November, or do you want to put a placeholder on a special town meeting? That's all we're here to ask tonight. If you want to, great. If you don't, that's fine. You give us your orders, and you say we have 5 million, we walk away, we go figure it out. If we come over 5, then we have to work with the chief to figure out what can we build for 5 million without giving up services.
Excuse me, one thing I did want to add, and we hadn't really talked about, but we've discussed with the building committee, is making some of these items ad alternates. In other words, the secondary way out, which is on the right-of-way on the side, we could make that an ad alternate, break that out, and depending how the numbers come in, you could accept that or not. There may be other things we can do that too, and that's worth, well, we have it in the estimate now at $216,000. So
Or you could value engineer it out after, instead of doing it as an ad alt.
What does that mean, ad alt?
It's just a separate item, separate bid item that's outside of the main bid.
Okay, I see.
Of that 1.2 million overage, 400,000 of it, we're going to remove anyway. So the secondary egress is a couple $100,000. The fit out, there's certain things we're not going to do. So already that 6.2, we already said we wouldn't do this, we wouldn't do that, get that down to like 5.8. Now, if we go out to a new, can we get that down to something else? We need to go do that to figure that out.
Any questions out there?
Good?
I would suggest that as soon as plans are ready, you get them in front of planning. Our engineer's going to need to go through them and make sure they don't want to be coming back in like we did in the library. We settled some stuff there that shouldn't have actually got passed. But, I'd like to be on the front end of this. And it would assure that the town doesn't incur any further costs.
At what stage?
Whenever those plans are ready, the sooner the better. You guys can start contacting Jeff Walsh at Great Engineering now, I'll get you the information. And have him in on the front end. Because when it comes to planning, whatever he says, I've got to follow.
It's a big difference between a couple of designs that we're trying to narrow it down to now. So as soon as we get a design on which way it's going to enter the pattern, we're going to drop it down, we're going to keep it.
Jeff might have suggestions.
Well, we'll have a site plan, we'll have some kind of rough site stuff.
But you may want to look at your variables that you got now. You might have some suggestions that may, this guy's pretty experienced.
Okay. We have certainly no objection to that, and would welcome that. We're familiar with that firm, and I think we're fairly close to being able to share some plans on that.
Okay,
Great.
great.
Mr. Goddard?
Just kind of curious to keep going down a linear path. And I think at this point, is there a plan that gives us something
That's why I made the point I did.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that the people see what the 5 million basically appropriations, what it's designed to be, so you get prepared.
Yeah, well, again, yes, I think so, because we were fairly close with what we were calling D prime, so we took option D, did some value engineering on it, and we're about $100,000 over. So we know what that looks like.
Sorry, you know what looks like?
Option D.
We know, we're very close to knowing what a $5 million option looks like.
Okay.
We're within striking distance of it. And it was determined by all of us sitting around this table that there were too many compromises in that. And one of the things was that happened to have the Sally Port up front. And there was a very strong feeling that the town is looking for a more social use, if you will, of the front building. And so the other options had the training room, which can be used by the public, in offices, with a more, let's say, town-friendly approach. So we know what it can look like, but there were many compromises, and some of those compromises were felt to be unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, there was a logistical issue also, because of the Sally Port sitting on the front of the building.
Yes.
Then folks have to back into North Ave. Right. And that's not, Main Street, thinking about North Ave. And that's not a safe option, in my opinion.
But is it really required to move the Sally Port to the front of the building in order to get it down to 5 million? I don't buy that.
No, that's not what they're saying.
No, we need to do the same
exercise is what they're
with this
saying.
newer, smaller footprint. What we can't tell you tonight is that it's gonna cost 5 million. We don't know if it's gonna be 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, we're just letting you know that we're at this crossroads. We came in here from what we told the townspeople, what we were going to build. We're now trying to build something different. So we're letting you know that when we know exactly, if it's 5.6, we need to go find out how to cut $600,000.
That's right.
Because then the bid tells us two things. We're locked in at that price. If we can't do it, then we'll go back to square one. But at least we have a price we're locked in at. That number doesn't change. If we have to add alternates, then that's where you have the option. Okay, you don't want a training room, then the bid will cut it out. Or you don't want this, we'll cut it out. You know, to get down more. But we could get an estimate of 5 million, and depending on the bids, it could come in at 5.5, even though the estimate says 5. Or you can get it at 5 and come in at 4. We don't know.
Yep, I agree.
Yep. So,
Okay.
go to it.
Just when you go to town floor, you go high. What comes in last?
I thought we were good.
If, Bill, if.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Mary, did you have?
Just to clarify, when you go to town floor, we have a real number. Good for that. It won't be an estimate, it won't be a go high, so you feel ahead. It'll be the exact number of bid that
That's the whole point, is if you look at the schedule, we want to get the bid before, if you hypothetically wanted to go to the voters, we would have the exact number. That's why the schedule is in here. If you don't want to go that path, that's your choice.
Okay, so we have some time, a little bit of time to think about it.
Well, you know what we'd have to go, what I'd want to go, if we were really going to do that, what we'd want to go to the town, the people to say is, okay, we told you we were going to fund 100,000 a year inside the budget, right? So without adjusting the tax rate, we could use that and not pay for it inside the budget. But we'll have to debate that.
We have to go through that. Okay. Mrs. Morali?
I have one question.
I can tell you that as the chairman of the FinCom, the majority of voters that voted at the town meeting and at the ballot were under the impression that the town was going to spend $5 million for a police station, period. And the majority of them will be dismayed when they find out that they don't even have a design yet. And for you to suggest that we're going to spend some more or figure out, go back and ask for more, I get the whole idea about mission creep or the cost of the expense, but the only thing I would say is, obviously, time is of the essence. Because the only thing that's acceptable is some kind of increase because we haven't started building yet. The majority of people are already asking, how come we haven't started building it. We voted it over a year ago. And the suggestion that, well, we're going to change the design to E or E prime or F, G, and H just isn't acceptable. You have $5 million. You need to figure out what you can get for $5 million, and if you want to build more later and appropriate later, great. But get the station done. Get them in the new station. Use the community preservation money to renovate what you can. Use the rest of what you appropriate to do it. And don't go back to the voters again and ask them for more money until you get something done with what you've already appropriated. That's what needs to happen, and that needs to be the mission. And I think that's the mission that everybody was under the impression that this building committee had. And if people misunderstood, well, I think it needs to be made clear tonight, that's what it was and that's what it needs to be. And you need to design based on that $5 million figure. And that's it. And don't go back to people and ask for another override, or another debt exclusion, or another $100,000 in or outside the budget. Just spend the money that the voters said you could appropriate and get it done as quick as you can.
If I just,
I'm sorry.
I don't agree with the respect that, I mean, the thing we had, I mean, it seems like we're just trying to crunch it down. I mean, if we had to not do particular things within that original plan, if that's the concept that everybody agrees needs to be done for a good police station, and there's some things we can't finish at this point, whether it be a fitness center or whatever, and appropriate that later. I mean, that would make more sense than, and maybe the market creep's gone with them too. That would make more sense than shorting us on the building and then having to redesign something later.
I think what I heard is that they already cut all that stuff out, and then everything that's in there is required.
right, but there are things that are in here now that we don't have today. For example, we don't have a Sally Port. Do we do that later? I mean, we can look at those things if you want us to, again, if that's what the sentiment is work within the five.
Let's see where E comes in,
Exactly.
and we'll go from there.
Exactly.
There's nothing else we can do.
But just to be clear, I mean, I just want to make sure, we're only a little bit behind the original timeline. Our original timeline was to put the shovel in the ground in September. Now we're looking, later in the year, but we didn't get these initial costs until 2 months ago.
Correct.
So we're exactly what, it takes you months to get the OPM, the architects, we're right, this is recent information, so if I don't want people to think that we've been going design. No, this is all within the last 2 months.
That's right.
And that's what set us back.
I think that's a very important fact for people to know that are questioning that, is that this building committee has worked extremely diligently on this project. I've attended many of the meetings, and I'm telling you, everything that we've seen based off a schedule, right on track, except for this little blip. The bottom line is that they're moving right along. It's a very long process.
I mean, to go with what you said, I mean, we took us 5 months to hire an OPM, and we got to hire an architect, you got to go through the state bidding process. You can't just hire someone, you can't just say, hey, hire, that's it, you have to post, you have to bid, you have to interview, you have to have closing dates. We've done everything right in order.
There's no question that this building committee has done a great job. I only react the way I do to make sure that anybody listening knows that at least I, and I'm sure the rest of the board does, cares and wants to protect their tax dollar, period.
Right.
That's the way to go.
Absolutely, but we don't want to be penny wise, pound foolish.
I agree with Mrs. Law.
And we want to do this right, and it's important to do it right, and this station is going to be in our community forever. So, we can't skimp on this thing. We need to do it right, period.
Mike?
I'm not suggesting that the building committee has done a great job or isn't diligent at all. All I'm pointing out is the majority of the people who are listening to this, the majority of the people who voted, were under the impression that a lot of this was already done when they voted. They thought that there was a plan in place, it was going to cost $5 million, let's vote on it and move forward. And I want to make it clear that time is of the essence, because obviously that's not the case, and none of us wants to have a meeting with what happened with the library, because, it sounds like, it's starting all over again.
to grab them.
Yeah. I guess I'll move over one. All right, sorry. So I was the project manager for the library too. They're not apples to apples. We had a contractor that eventually went bankrupt. It was a totally different project that can't be compared. Maybe the town's history of putting money into projects could be compared, I don't know. I think part of the issue here is the original study was a concept, a basic program, and a budget. Then you go into, after you pass your town meeting, Mike, you can help me out with this, you go into phases of design. You go into the schematic design, and then you finalize that, and you pick your final option, you go into design development. These things take time. It's not just 1 or 2 pages. The drawings start out with a couple floor plans, an elevation, and a budget. By the end of this process, which could be about 8 months, you've got 150 plans and 2 spec books for even a small $5 million project. So I just want to reassure the community that the last 2 weeks, when we found out this problem, everybody has been working round the clock on weekends, emails at 2:30 in the morning, believe it or not, from some people, Kevin. The estimators have been pulled off other projects in my office to put their attention on every option that came through. Some of these options only came through in a day, and everybody was able to look at it. So we understand the budget, we understand the small town, what a burden that would be. So we're doing everything we can to line it up, and we will do what we can. The thought of going out to bid before town meeting has been extremely successful in other small towns. The most recent case, Templeton Police Station. It did come in 200,000 over, and we had the option of reducing scope. We had a back pocket alternate we could have pulled out. The town decided, we had the vote, we had the numbers 2 weeks before town meeting. The town came in and it went right through. I'm not suggesting that Mendon would do that. I'm just saying that it has worked when you have concrete information. Estimates are estimates. They can be 10% higher, 10% lower. It's an educated guess based on the development of the drawings and the market. So I don't know if anybody has questions for us on the process.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap that up. Good?
Thank you.
So
Thank
much. All right, I'm going to go back in order for people who are here, and then go back to things that are easy that for people that aren't here on the agenda. So, is there someone here for Dan's Auto Diagnostics? Okay, take care of that quick, because I think that's fast.
Which number are you looking at?
Number 5.
Okay, I move to approve a Class 2 dealer license to Daniel Fahey, Dan's Auto Diagnostics, located at 136 Uxbridge Road, with a limit of 5 cars, pending return of positive routing slips.
Second.
Discussion. All right. So what are you looking to do?
I'm looking to get a dealer's license to go to auctions, purchase cars, do small repairs, and sell 5 at a time out of the house.
Is this a new business?
We've had a business license since 2015 for auto repair out of the house.
In Mendon?
Yes.
So it seems like we've...
I'm trying to think where the property is.
What's that?
It's right across from the old.
We'll just approve the change of use of that, where they live.
Okay.
It's across from the old truck and trailer world, where the Granite Place is now. It's directly across the street.
Hey, Chris, there's a map image here.
Oh, is there?
Guess it would help if we looked at our packets, huh?
Right.
It's okay, it's been a busy night.
You guys have been busy.
What the heck is the thing? All right, thank you. Oh, you do have one.
I have one. It's right at the end.
Is this one of those Google Maps?
Yeah. They asked for a drawing, but I figured that was easier.
And where are you going to put the cars?
Do you have the sheet with the squares?
Yep.
Yep,
Those
so
are the
there's
parking spots.
Yep, so there's 5 different rectangles that would indicate possible locations for cars to be parked for sale.
Okay, now, remember we had, have you had this property, how long have you had this property?
Since 2015.
Okay, because it seems to me we had a similar business at the same location.
There was a sign, Signs by Design was there previously. We purchased it from them in March of 2015, the house. But it's on industrial commercial property, which is why we purchased it.
Okay.
It sits in the commercial district.
Okay. All right. Is there a limit to how many Class 2 licenses we can have?
I don't know the answer to that, but I know the limit is 5 cars.
There's never been a class 2 at that location.
There's never been a Class 2 at this location. Is there a limit on the number of Class 2s you can have in the town?
No.
No? Okay.
The zoning let us know that we were approved for up to 5 vehicles.
Up to 5 vehicles.
Okay, so that 5 vehicles is part of the laws, not necessarily the restrictions of that particular location, right?
No, the 5 vehicles is, what the planning board would do, would take a look at the property, the impact it's gonna have around it, and make a decision on the number of cars we feel can safely be attributed to that location.
Okay.
And we felt that 5 cars is the
Okay.
maximum.
The 5 cars still allows for a full turnaround, so no one has to back onto Route 16.
Yeah, there's a horseshoe driveway in the front, so people have a safe entrance and exit.
She the boss?
I do the
Better
paperwork.
speaking than me, you know?
Rest assured, line of sight, entrance and exit.
All right.
Entrance and exit is absolutely fine at that.
Great.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All set?
Thank you.
Good luck, gentlemen. Thank you.
Next.
Like, you guys are just lucky I was here.
What's that?
Betsy's not
Which
here.
one?
Trask property.
Which one's that?
Me? No. My Chinese food is getting cold.
Yeah, well.
Sorry, Bill.
Oh, you skipped over Southwest.
You're absolutely
What?
right.
You skipped over Southwest.
Yeah, but
She's not, she was here and she left.
Trying to take care of, get two people.
So we won't do that tonight? We won't do it tonight, then.
No, we will, but just go back to it, because I'm just trying to move.
Just trying to get the people out of here.
Oh, I see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't realize you left.
Okay.
I need it though. Sorry. Sign the license.
Yeah,
Hi.
it's right here.
Hi.
Hi.
You ready?
Ready.
Are you
Go.
awake?
Camera's on.
Okay, all right, so the Trask property, you have the map in front of you, the sketch plan. And this is the property that's off of Hopedale Street, and it's a donation by Harvey Trask.
What street?
Hopedale Street.
Okay.
Yeah, it's by Trask Road, and the trust was a little confusing, so town council suggested a solution for the town receiving the property. And they came up with an agreement that everybody agrees on, the life tenant, Mr. Gagner, the Trask Trust, and trustees of reservations. And so now we're presenting this to you. So on the sketch plan that you have, parcel 8, the 5 acres, that cuts out the piece for Mr. Gagner with the house and the barn.
I'm sorry, you said parcel 8?
Parcel 8.
Yep.
Yes. And then the parcel 6 wraps around it. You can see in the view of the whole property. It doesn't say parcel 6 on it, but on the big version
It
of it.
does, it says it right there, yeah.
But, okay, parcel 6, that's the piece that the town would end up with, and that's around 58 acres. So Mr. Gagner would own parcel 8, and he would pay taxes on that. And the town now, from the whole property, receives around 5,600 taxes, $5,600 in taxes, and Mr. Gagner would pay $5,100 in taxes a year, so it's pretty much the same.
And the gift to the town could be used as open space, a sports facility, or a school. And so the next step, if you agree with this arrangement, would be that Shea Engineering would do a survey on the ground, because this is just a sketch plan, but
Okay.
And remind me the things we can do with it?
it can be open space, it could be like a sports facility or a school for the future, you know? I mean, it's, you know, something that the town would have in its back pocket in case it was needed.
Passive or active recreation, both?
Yeah, the sports facility, I mean, yeah.
Dan, do you want to add anything?
Well, I think, I mean, I guess it's worth noting that when the town renovated Clough, I think the school initially contacted Mr. Trask and attempted to purchase this land to site a new regional elementary school, and he wasn't willing to sell it. So it's definitely buildable. It's all upland. It definitely has potential for the town for future use, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. Parks is always looking for locations for new fields. I mean, this really is an ideal location for any number of future uses.
And there are existing fields, right? So there's cleared areas.
Yeah, there are some open areas and uplands, and it is in close proximity to Misco, which is very nice. And it's beautiful property.
The gentleman living there, along with Mr. Trask, really did a lot to care for this property. They maintain the trees. It's not, some of these properties are really overgrown, and this is really, it's nice.
And remind me, if the town chooses not to move forward with this, what can the owner do with the property?
Well, if the town doesn't accept the property, then it goes to the trustees of reservations.
And then they can decide whatever they want to do with it?
Yeah, they're pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much, so if they chose to develop it, they could develop it, if they...
They could, I mean, they're a land preservation organization, so, that's probably not what they would do, but it's hard to say.
But they don't have the same restrictions that we do.
No.
That's what I was trying to get at, so
They could
if they chose to,
put
whatever they
houses, whatever
decide
they
to
want.
do, they can do.
Right.
Okay, that's what I was just trying to make sure of.
And that's why the trustees of reservations had to agree to the change in the trust, because they're named in it. And so Mr. Gagner, the trustees, and the trust all agree with this arrangement because it's following the wishes of the trust, the intent of the trust, but it's just cleaner, by dividing the property up and then having the person pay taxes, and instead of having the town wait until the person's life estate ends and then the town would get it. So it's cleaner this way.
So I have a motion in here, so I always...
Do you need a decision tonight? Is that-
Well, yeah, I'd like a decision to, move forward and, complete the donation and, what it would be, the next steps would be to finalize the paperwork. We would come back to you to have you sign it, and then finalize the plan.
No, I'm gonna have to write it, though.
What are you looking for, Rich?
No, we don't have a motion, so I'm looking for my other motion to add this one to it, to make another one. I don't know where the heck I put, here it is, right?
Bill?
You said there's a life estate for,
Yeah, there's a person that lives in the house, right? And so the way the trust was written, it wasn't written that well, but...
That's not the way it got here.
And so the life estate, the person living in the house had a life estate to stay on the property, and then when that person died, the town would get everything.
That person's willing to leave now.
No, not leave, they're cutting out the idea would be to cut out a 5-acre lot, and then he would own it, pay taxes, and then the town would get the bulk of the property around it.
So we don't get the 5 acres back after life estate?
No.
I think the guys get just taking too.
Well, the one thing town council said was that, if the person is the other thing it said in the trust is that this person wouldn't have to pay taxes, which they really can't say that in the trust, but he was saying that if the person's going to be paying taxes, they have to own the property, so.
Yeah.
And it's cleaner, too.
Okay, so what is it we're really being asked to decide? I mean,
To say that, yes, this looks like a good arrangement, and, we'll move forward to finalize the documents that you could sign, and then to have Shea Engineering finalize the plan, like, on the ground.
Okay, so this verbiage that we've got here represents the work that town council did to rectify the problems that we had that we talked about last time,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How we do it, approve, to allow Ms. Mazar and town council to
move forward on.
It's
Yeah.
a CPA funds, I mean, is this going to limit our use of this property?
No.
Because that's one of the things that, you know, I get concerned with using CPA funds. You only get
It's
to
no
do-
CPA funds. It's a donation. It's a donation to the town. The land, yeah.
The trust limits what we can, it's limited
So I
to
mean, so
recreation
he's
to
just
school.
going to give the rest.
Couple
Yep.
of questions though, while they're figuring that out. So for costs associated with the development of the property, are we gonna use CPA funds? And if we do so, are we then?
What kind of development of the
Well,
property?
If we're doing a land survey or we're doing some sort of site work.
We can't use CPA funds for this.
So we need
But they still have to, whatever they agree, they still gotta bring back to us, and when we're gonna
Sign.
vote to sign and agree, right?
Good property, I mean, it's possible.
Right, I just
Very
want to
good.
make sure I know where.
Good property at all, and I'd rather not
not gonna
peel the 5 acres off.
I mean, some of the work's been done already, so it's, no, I don't think so.
Jane?
And they accepted it right away, actually.
Yeah.
And they're going to actually make a trail from the center up and back to the property.
All right.
I move to approve town council to move forward finalizing an agreement with on the Trask donation for future consideration and signing by the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we'll be back with the final information and
Great.
be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda.
Is that me?
It's you.
It's me and you.
I might get my Chinese food yet.
Wilhelm!
Dog and pony show.
You have a copy of that?
I think we've gone
Do I
to
have a
sleep.
copy of
I
it?
didn't bring it.
I have a copy of it for you, if you want. Like,
Hey, Chris, you didn't happen to notice this is Mark's first
You guys really aren't gonna
full
like
meeting, and he's running way over time.
But we're not coming back for a month.
did you do the gridiron thing?
Nope.
Can you do that while I make a copy for Bill?
Sure, why don't?
The gridiron.
Go back to number 4.
So, I move to approve the request of the Nipmuc Gridiron Club to conduct its annual Mendon Helmet Drive, Helmet Drive, fundraiser at the intersection of North Ave and Route 16 on Saturday, August 11th, 2018, from 9 a.m. to noon.
Second.
Discussion. This is an annual event.
Yeah.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Chopping them off, Mr.
You know what, she's still talking. How about this? How about we do this one?
Go for it.
I move to make the following one-year appointments to expire June 30th, 2019. ADA Coordinator Kevin Rudden, Affordable Housing Coordinator William McHenry, Building Inspector Timothy Accardi, Building Inspector Assistant John Erickson, CMRPC Planning William Ambrosino, oh, I know him. Custodian, Soldiers and Sailors Graves, Robin Fletcher. Election Warden, Carol Cook. Election Warden Deputy, Catherine Rich. Insurance Advisory Committee, Margaret Tatro. Master Plan Committee, Bill Ambrosino. Chief Procurement Officer, Kimberly Newman. Highway Procurement Officer, Alan Tatro. Town Council, Murphy, Hess, Toomey, and Lahane, LLP. Treasurer Collector, Jennifer Welch. Veterans Agent, Robin Fletcher. Veterans Burial Agent, Robin Fletcher. Wiring Inspector, Jack Grenga. Wiring Inspector Assistant Albert Jones. ZBA Alternate Lonnie Tinio. ZBA Alternate Shirley Grant.
Your name and she appears.
Second.
Further discussion.
I have no, I mean...
All in favor?
Aye. All right.
Choke them off, Mr. Chairman. It's a way to pick up the pace.
All right, now we'll go to Bill.
Okay, you guys gonna be happy to see me. All right, just so we're clear. I've done a complete study of the planning for the town of Mendon, what it was lacking, where we need to go. And working with CMRPC to come up with said plan and the cost for doing so. This, understand, is utilizing CPC directly CMRPC directly to help us with our planning, aid us in building our zoning bylaws, and doing proper planning through our commercial corridors. Currently, I mean, a lot of towns use private companies, much more expensive. CMRPC is willing to step in and do this for us. They do it for a lot of the smaller communities. And we've come up with a very robust plan to get us where we need to be. Understanding the town's plight monetarily, I know it can't all be done at one time. I think it's going to have to be a pecking order situation. My job is to make you aware of what the town needs, from my opinion. Obviously the opinion of CMRPC. What we can do with that over the course of the next few years remains to be determined. I have in a revolving fund I think there's about $21,000 of it sitting there. It's supposed to go to the master plan. I've got to, obviously the marijuana bylaw has to be done first. That's priority one right now. But we need to set something in motion to resolve a lot of the planning that's gone on. Some of the problems we're having today were created by improper planning. Certainly, and not to rehash old things, but the situation with the strip club, proper planning would have prevented that. It should never happen that way. Would never made it through my board. So before further situations arise, I'd like to get out in front of this stuff, marijuana being the next big one, but there's going to be something else after that. So you guys have the plan in front of you. I can direct you on a few things. I think the two most important items currently are, number one, the marijuana bylaw has to be resolved in time for us to get on in November, because the moratorium ends December 31st. So that being the most important item, rest assured we can have that available. I'm not concerned with that. Number two I would have to say would be to finish the master plan. Now that unfortunately is the biggest item on this ticket. I don't think that in our current situation, we're going to be able to do that right now, unless you guys got a magic wand. I'm reasonable with that, but this town needs a master plan. It makes a big difference when you go in for grants and whatnot. It's hard to request a grant from the state for particular things when you don't have a master plan in place. They're going to say, well, how do you know you need that? I have a master plan. I mean, we're one of I think there's 14 towns left that have never proposed a master plan. We're one of those 14. The growth management study and the capital improvement plan, I feel are probably next in line. I think they'll tell us a lot about our planning and the direction we're heading, and aid us in completing the master plan. The priority development stuff is for both Route 16 and 140. You know, people stuff you don't think about every day, designing egress, stuff like that from these commercial properties. One issue that Mendon has is we have too many egresses on Route 16 in the district between the lights and West Hartford Ave. I mean, every business just exits out. There needed to be better management of that, whether there's anything in the short term we can do, you know, and the same with 140. As far as when we're designing, planning for those, we need to, you know, and they'll talk about roundabouts and stuff. I don't know if you guys have seen the roundabout is making a huge comeback. It controls traffic better, and the degree of impact of accidents is less. The impact in a roundabout is less than one at a light. You know, it's not a T-bone, it's usually a grazing incident. Now, whether they can fit them into the scope of Mendon, I don't know, but a lot of towns are using them now. I can certainly point right to Norfolk. Their entire downtown center on 115 has only roundabouts now. So you can go through there. Other issues, which has kind of been something, and it's going to be the last task to be taken care of on this list, and that's the Village Center bylaw. I've been working on for some time. Shirley Smith, God bless her, and I started it some years ago. I've always felt there's a problem with walkability in this community. That's why you don't see the congregating of people in the center of the community. There is just no walkability in Mendon. I was hoping to put together a bylaw that would promote that. We've taken some zoning steps. They haven't branched out yet because we haven't completed everything, but certainly turning Providence Road into a business residential district was hopefully going to promote that. You know, we get some businesses moving into these small houses, lawyer's office, doctor's office. Maybe get them to pay for some sidewalks, you know. I just want to, you know, conclude that when we do, when planning thinks about business zoning and residential zoning, people who move to Mendon, they also need jobs. And businesses in Mendon produce jobs. I've got, I think, 8 people that live in our community that work for me. I'm sure Kevin Meehan probably has 100 anyways. You know, so these jobs that come to our community do produce jobs for people who live within our community. So it's something to keep in mind. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Bill and I have been meeting for the last couple of years, and our conversations always come back to the same point, which is that the town needs to invest even a small amount in planning services in order to move the community forward. They've done a great job sustaining the last couple of years, but it's really not reasonable to expect that a committee of volunteers is going to have the time or the expertise to produce planning documents or bylaws for the town that are going to hold up in court. I mean, we've been through this already.
Right.
So I had put forward the request for funding before I had seen this bill. It didn't make the cut for this year's budget. So in an attempt to get a little bit more creative, I met with a couple of our neighboring towns, and I have brokered potentially the possibility of sharing a full-time planner position that 3 towns would share, so that we can start making some progress on these things on this list. Now, I don't want to get Bill's hopes up. So obviously, and I've spoken to a couple of you about this already, I don't like the time of year for adding a position. We haven't even started the fiscal year, but I would like the opportunity to explore as soon as possible this possibility of sharing this position, pending whether or not I can find funding within the budget or at November town meeting. Because I think that based upon the amount we're going to spend on this list to pay a contractual service to do, this seems like an opportune time to take a look at this.
And I totally agree, obviously. I mean, you've been relying on volunteers to do most of this forever. And planning and Mendon has always been reactionary. When I see something coming down the pike, I try and get out ahead of it. I took a book that was like 7 pages of zoning regulations and now sits at I think it's up to 59 or something like that. And it isn't near done. I mean, town simple as Upton has a zoning regulation book over 100 pages.
Yeah, go ahead. So, first I want to say, Bill, thank you very much for your commitment to the town. I mean, you've worked tremendously hard for the years that I've known you on planning, and I couldn't agree more that there's a significant level of expertise that goes along with zoning and planning and making sure that our community is doing the right thing, et cetera, et cetera. So, I'm certainly in favor of researching the potential of partnering with other communities, although I have some reservations about that piece of it, but I'm not opposed as long as we meet the ultimate goal. I would be more concerned around the management aspect of those pieces, and I would really want to understand that. But you definitely, in my opinion, we need that expertise, and we can't just expect a volunteer committee to keep on doing as good of a job as you guys are doing right now, and it still makes it difficult.
Yeah, well, it's difficult for me to keep all those boards filled. We had the bylaw review committee. I've had a hard time keeping that full. The master plan committee, I've had a hard time keeping that full. Things just evolve, and I try to stay out of them myself because I don't want to push my own agenda on them, so let them make their own decisions. And they go well for a while, but they just dissipate after that.
I was looking at your conclusion page, and I noticed that you had task 4 as task 5 is the marijuana bylaw, and I'm seeing the total cost on that is $7,500. I heard that you had $21,000 in your account, and I also heard that
that's the master plan. I can't use that
you can't use
for anything
that.
except with the master plan.
the problem is we need to get on that right away, so we have to come up with $7,500.
Right, we're gonna have to allocate that in the budget. I mean, I assume we're gonna pay some sort of counsel in order to prepare it, so we might be able to figure something out in that way.
I think, CMRPC, they're familiar with they're more familiar than anybody with writing that bylaw.
Yeah.
I think they're the ones to write that bylaw for us. I don't.
Yeah, some of these things are gonna have to get done between now and November.
Yeah, and what I heard is your proposal comes out in November, so
Right,
even
but
if we
wanna be doing them at the same time, because,
it's absolutely, you have no choice, you have to.
right.
So.
But, I mean, we're gonna have to find money to spend once the fiscal year starts, right? Unless I can find something today, which maybe, I don't know, maybe. I mean, if we can identify a couple of things that have to get done between now and November, we can find funding for those things, and then also have a plan in place to tackle the bigger things, and so. Even if we hire someone, we're still gonna have to work, we still should and will have to work with CMRPC. They are the main source.
Absolutely.
They will be the main contact point, and they will be the subject matter expert for these types of things, so.
I used to have when I first took this position, I had like a $50,000 a year budget. Well, I would use that sparingly, and maybe that's my own fault. Maybe I should have gone out and done a lot of this work initially, just spending that out. Well, after a few years, it was taken away, and I was given like 1,000. That 50,000 that I let squander, unfortunately, has cost town planning. I mean, the master plan needs to be completed. I think CMRPC is also the one to finish that. There's certain things that CMRPC, like the growth management, the maps, the tables, they already have a lot of that stuff. But, you know, they're going to need at least be involved, whether we hire someone, a planner to pull it together. But there's stuff on a daily basis that we need a planner involved in, so we don't end up with a situation like the money we lost.
Got a lot of big subjects coming up.
Defending that, and you know what? Any bylaw is only as good as you've written. Just because we've written a bunch doesn't mean they won't be contested. I would suggest that we might have something coming down the pike soon, contesting our solar bylaw.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty eminent from things I've heard on the street. I think there's a possibility that we could be in a fight on the solar bylaw, so.
All right. So we need an action.
I have a motion that I'd like.
Let me see if I want to make it.
That's fair. Modify it any way you'd like.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
While he's reviewing that, I just, you know, want to really emphasize that task number 5, the marijuana bylaw. There's a lot of work that has to be done in a short order on that, and
We'll be well prepared.
yeah.
I've already spoken with CMRPC. We hope to have something in front of the board by September, so we can make the November, has to be done before the end of the year. So if we're all gathering on New Year's Eve,
Bring the champagne.
just hand out drinks.
I move to allow the town administrator to work with select surrounding communities to create a shared town planner position subject to availability of funding.
Second.
Further discussion.
Yeah, I just continue to be frustrated by the lack of ability to send recurring revenue into roads. I just, and that's just more money that won't go to roads, but anyway.
It's important, and I agree, but they're competing priorities.
Yeah.
And nothing says that this stuff has to be done in year one. Even what Kim's doing for a planner is going to be, you know, I mean, towns have to budget planning. I mean, let's face it, you are putting nothing into planning right now. $0. $0 into planning for a community of 6,000 people is unheard of. And to be honest with you, it's because I've done most of the work for the past 10, 11 years.
That's right.
With the help of some very studious
agree.
people and Shirley Smith on the bylaw review committee has made up your town planning, and it's all been voluntary.
Believe me, I agree, I get it. I made the motion. But you could make that same argument for any number of things that we do or don't do, you know what I mean? So, but anyway.
Yeah, but in my opinion, this is a real important one because it has legality written all over it,
As we found out.
as we found out.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, Misco Springs Building. Oh, stamp that.
I'm staying here.
Oh, he says, oh.
Okay.
Almost got away.
Ask away.
What the heck's going on with that?
I think it's very simple. You know, I mean, I think for whatever reason there was a process issue. I'm not going to blame anyone, or I mean, where we're currently today
Yes.
is the fact that the we had worked with the developer to come to an agreement for some waivers that he'd be willing to either provide the town the property or $150,000. Now, keep in mind, these are not impact fees. These are, you know, he did not have to agree to them. Okay, this was kind of a part and parcel working together between developer and a planning board. He agreed to those. I was under the assumption that there was going to be work between the historical, you guys, and the developer to decide which route you were going. I wasn't aware that the planning board needed to provide notice, so we certainly would have. But be as it may, I don't think he'll go back on any agreement he's made. If anyone wants to reach out to Bruce Whaler, I'll tell you what, everything we've asked him to do, he's done, and the planning board engineer believes he's one of the best developers we got working in town right now. So, I don't think he's here just to cheat us out of something. I think he'd be willing to, he's going to be a stand-up guy on it, I think. It's my opinion.
Oh, what?
You know, we talk Italian, you know.
I was at that meeting when Mr. Wheeler and the planning board were Mr. Wheeler was trying to get the 4 waivers. And actually, he was the one who suggested that he would do either give us the building or the $150,000. And I think that unless he did that, he would not have gotten the waivers, according to what I
That's the way the
gleaned
supplement covenant was
from
written.
the
yeah.
meeting. He also apparently gave a covenant to the planning board that said that the town had to make a decision by December of 2017. Now, I was on the I'm not on the commission anymore, as you all know, but I was on the commission when we were negotiating with Mr. Wheeler. He could have torn that building down at any time. But the building is very unique. It was built in 1895 or so. Probably one of the few larger businesses in town. And as you know, if you go around, you can't see any other stone building like that. There's one in existence. I would like the town to accept the building. $150,000 is really a pittance. I don't think anything can even has to be done to the building except storage, and anything on the outside, CPA funds, historic restoration funds, can be used for that. A couple of the windows have been knocked out, unfortunately. But anyway, I think just for plain storage, and I know, excuse me?
No, once you were done, I was just going to add.
Okay. Anyway, I know that the water board says there's no way that water can ever be, potable water could ever be accessed in that situation. However, we know how quickly technology develops, and I really would think it would be a shame if that building were torn down, and 20 years down the road, we think, oh gosh, gee, maybe we could have gotten potable water. Maybe we could have gotten water to, for the town to access in terms of fire or whatever. So, it's just that's what the Historical Commission does, and the society as well. We try to save the historic buildings in town.
I think the ruling by DEP didn't state anything about the existence of water that we find. It's the current wells. Right. They won't allow them to be used for public supply. That area's been producing water for, 150 years or whatever. So it used to produce it out of a spring in the back. I think the odds are good that there might be some type of, and I don't know how you didn't have a study done, there might be some type of aquifer under there that the town could potentially take advantage
The
of.
unfortunate thing is that now all the building going around.
It would affect it, yeah, but, and I will tell you, I think the only reason why the concern with Mr. Wheeler is, because if nothing's going to happen with the town, I think he wants to landscape it, just so it makes property around it look better. I don't think he's in a rush to do anything, tear it down or anything. He just wants a landscape and get the place cleaned up.
Right.
I mean, he's selling houses around, he doesn't want it to look. in
He
its
actually
current-
offered to landscape it.
Yeah, he did.
himself.
He was gonna do it, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I can bring him in and we can talk to him and see what his intentions are for landscaping, but if the guy wants a landscape, I say we let him.
So, question. It would be considered a vacant building, we'd have to have it insured. What is the cost of the insurance on the,
It's $8,000. But if somebody put items in it.
Yeah, to be honest with you, it'll cost you less to insure a building with stuff in it
Right.
than a vacant, believe it or not.
Let's ask him, he would know.
Yeah. I'm in the insurance business, I can pretty much tell you that.
So I'm here to advocate for Parks. I know Parks is desperate for a home for a future workshop, to have all of our stuff in one place where we can work on equipment. But even in the short term, where the whole town is in desperate need of storage, there's a police vehicle that's being stored in the old fire station that's going to have to go when that project starts. I think at one point the snow blower or something was in there. You know, this right now, I mean, it's basically a giant drive-in garage. It certainly needs some work to be functional in terms of like offices or livable, but just in terms of it's a solid building with a roof that, you know, not going to blow over.
What about,
Just that alone has huge value.
I mean, the town's been talking about affordable housing and stuff. I know the highway department has their building there. Is this something potentially that the highway department could utilize? Is that building big enough? The old Misco.
Yeah, I never been in the bottom of it. We have the buildings up at Emmett Hill that we use.
But if you could put it all on one location,
The
potentially.
highway department over there. The way that it's set up, I think we got like, I don't know if there's enough land there to do what I have now.
Yeah.
So, the options are give us the building or get $150,000. If we take the $150,000, he's gonna level the building?
Yes.
The only option?
Yeah, because he's gonna utilize a lot on the road front.
2 houses will go in there. According to the original plan that he submitted, there would be,
Yeah, I
if you're
think it
looking at
got
the building,
reduced
there's
because-
one to the right and one where the,
I think it reduced because he moved the road. Because I think I forget the size of the parcel, but it's either 1 or 2 houses would be placed.
Certain he's gonna level it.
Oh, yeah.
oh, yes.
Now,
He's building the road now.
yeah,
Yes,
it's coming
that's
out
right.
right down right next to it.
Chris?
I guess, I mean, listen, the building's a staple of Mendon, there's no doubt about it. It's been here forever. It's
Everybody knows Misco's.
everybody knows Misco Springs. I'd hate to see the building go. I guess the only concern that I would have is the age of the building. I don't know what type of environmentals are in the building. I don't know what type of costs are associated with it. So I'm a little bit concerned about not having a full, to use a Selectman Schofield analogy, a battlefield command of what we're getting ourselves into, is my only concern. If,
Maybe we could have, ask Mr. Wheeler if he'd do the potential workup on it.
yeah, if we could do a phase one.
You'd just hire an environmental company, it'd
Yeah.
probably $5,000 or $10,000,
Yeah.
he may be willing to do
Yeah,
that.
I don't feel comfortable doing things blindly, you know, without really knowing what the true impacts are. If you can buy us a little time and, you know, come back and give us an assessment of what needs to be done up there and how we can use it and what's gonna take to get it, so even if we're just using a storage, I know there's
Insurance estimate too.
an insurance estimate, et cetera. If we could do that, then that's gonna better help me make a
I think it
decision.
might be good to actually have Mr. Wheeler come in here,
Yeah.
talk about this with him.
Well, we had a meeting, I think you remember, Kim? We had a meeting in the bottom of the library, and Mr. Wheeler was supposed to appear with, yes, and he did not. For some reason, and I called him, and there was no answer. So he may be fed up, I'm not sure. But I think it would be a shame, and I think that it's another town saying, okay, we're going to cut this off because we don't have the figures right now, but I would like the town to have a little wider perspective, a little longer perspective about what might happen with this building.
I could reach out to Fred Lappin. I mean, he's Mr. Wheeler's engineer, Shea Engineering. So we'll reach out to Fred and see if he can circle us back with Mr. Wheeler and get this all, because they prepared the supplemental covenant. So, like I said, I don't think he has intention of just ripping it down. I think he just wants a decision made. Right.
Bill, when you reach out to them, can you get me access to the building? I think in order to help sort of identify any kind of plan or direction, we have to know if there's a viable use or option for it. I can't recommend or figure any of that out.
Didn't someone from the town already go
I
down?
was able to, Gary Smith gave me and
Right.
Tom Bell the tour, and I think he's still in contact, and I'm sure he'd be happy to show people around, and we just gotta schedule it.
Yeah, I gotta see.
I think, and obviously we need the environmental study done.
Right.
Yep,
And then,
absolutely.
And any proposal then costs, so I gotta.
Sorry, what study?
It's an environmental study, it's a phase one.
Every building needs one.
Yeah.
Needs one.
Yeah.
I mean, to make sure there's no hazardous material.
No PCB, no
gotcha,
PCBs, no
gotcha. Yeah,
asbestos.
Well, I'm sure there's
lead.
lead paint in there.
I'm sure
I mean,
there's probably everything in
no
there.
question about that, because it has the tin ceilings that are peeling at this point.
Yeah, but isn't the first thing we really need to know, though, is particularly since he gave us a time limit that we're already across, isn't the first thing we need to know is Mr. Wheeler, what kind of additional time are you willing to give us? Don't we need to know that first? Because maybe he's already over the threshold and says, no, I'm done with you.
Yeah, he
I
may.
don't think so.
He may. I mean,
most
I was stunned when I found out that there was this covenant that had been in existence for I don't know how many months.
So I think the first thing we gotta do is somebody's gotta call and just make sure that
Well,
there's
first,
still an opportunity.
he would have been required to give down proper notice, and he has never done that. I mean, he can't just, he set that expiration date. That wasn't an agreement that was made. He set that. Never gave town any notice. I'm not aware of unless I went to somebody else. But he never gave town any notice.
So you think there's no reason to check with him? You think he's fine? He'll give us some more time?
Yeah, that
I'm not so sure.
Find him in breach we'll find him in breach of his agreement, and we'll pull back the waiver.
I just don't see why it would hurt to just pick up the phone, call the guy, and just.
Well, that's what I'm gonna do. Tomorrow, I'll just.
I have a follow-up question too, for historic. So assuming that we can't actually find a viable use for the building, right? Like the cost of restoring it and maintaining it for an active use really is not feasible because we just don't have that money. The cost of just maintaining the facade and the value of maintaining the facade, I assume, is of some value to historic, right? Over the long haul, just keeping the building
Yes.
in existence, right? So we should really get a cost on that too, because that seems the most likely immediate scenario until money magically appears to fund other options. So that's where we should be looking, I think. How much CPA funds and for how long and over what time and all of that goes with it. That's in order
Okay.
to see the building.
All right.
Okay, so we don't
Sounds
need to
good.
take a vote on anything now. We're getting more information, talking about it again. Is that what we're saying?
That's what I'd like.
Well, I think it would be nice if the select board at least put in a call to Mr. Wheeler, because you're the ones that would have to make the decision.
I'm happy to do it.
And make a call and just say,
All right, Rich, I'll hook up a conference call.
Ah, good.
it's something that has been brought to our attention.
Okay. Yep.
We will get that done.
All right, thank you.
All right.
I'm done, right?
I think you
Complete streets.
Don't go anywhere.
Good time, guys.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Hey, you want that copy, Bill?
The reporter's leaving early.
Always a pleasure to see you, Bill.
Give him my, yeah, thanks.
I will talk to you later.
How long does this tape go for? I thought this usually changes tape out.
My knee is killing me. I'm telling you, I am so uncomfortable sitting here.
My wrist is really hurting right there.
I don't know, I don't think, oh, not for my knee, it's not.
Evening. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
So, as you know, we received a grant last year for $399,000. We have been out to bid twice. The first time we went out to bid, we received 4 bids, 3 of which were missing documents, and so the board made the decision to go back out to bid. We recently received just 1 bid from our solicitation. That bid is $286,000 more than the grant funding that we received. So,
Oh, we're trending, looks like we're trending in the same direction.
What's wrong?
so
No, I thought I figured we had a motion here somewhere. But go ahead, keep going.
So, we need additional funding for the project in order to proceed. My recommendation at this point is that we wait until November and that we go back out to bid to receive additional bids and to allocate additional funds up to a certain amount. I've contacted the state. They're willing to give us an extension till June 30 of 2019, so we are well within the window. We could go to town meeting, allocate the funding, go back out to bid, and do construction in the spring.
And that is actually the same exact thing that I thought we should do.
Sorry, Mark, stole your thunder there.
Go out to bid for a third time.
Yes.
Why?
Because we need to actually go to town meeting in November to get the money to do this project.
I
And
understand.
therefore,
Yeah.
when we get close to that time, we're gonna need a better number and exactly what we want in this project.
What's wrong with the number we got? We think it's gonna be less if we do it again?
Well, it could be more, and that's why we need to be prepared with a better figure come closer to November, if we're gonna ask for the money.
Right, and during this time in between, we're going to have to contact an additional engineering firm to make sure that the estimate that we have been working off of is actually an actual estimate. So we're gonna have to look at the details within the scope to make sure that that number is actually accurate.
So you're saying that the lowest bid we've received is more than the Complete Streets grant and the amount of money we reserved
Yes.
based upon the overages from the previous capital planning, capital project we had.
Correct.
Okay, just do the math for me, please.
We need $106,000.
Give me all the math, please.
685, 365 was the bid, which we really.
685, 3...
85.
85.
The grant was 399, 118.
Yeah.
Leaves a difference of 286, 247.
Okay.
We allocated 180, 189 for either Town Hall Campus or Complete Streets
Yeah,
project.
yeah.
Difference is 106, 058.
Got it. Okay, good, yeah.
Now, I should also mention that between the lowest bid within the 2 time periods went up an additional $70,000. So there was some question as to the discrepancy between the 2 bids. So it would be more advantageous to have multiple bidders so that we can ensure a true cost.
I mean, in my eyes, this is the only option at this point, unless you want to go and gut out Chapter 90, which I really don't think is a good idea.
I just find myself frustrated, the amount of time it takes from the time we have money available to the time we actually get something done.
Well, it's kind of out of our control.
Library roof, this Complete Streets. Now, we just talked earlier tonight, police station.
Police station, I don't accept. I think that's unfair. That's process.
It's all process.
This is process as well.
It's all process. Doesn't make it any less frustrating.
It's government.
Well, it is what it is.
That's what I say.
I mean, what other alternative do we have?
Nothing
I
good.
mean, I presume you came in here knowing this,
Have one.
I presume you came in here knowing this was the plan to be recommended tonight. And what's your opinion of this?
I don't think there's any other option. I mean, the way the numbers were coming in, it's just, he's right saying that we should probably, that we need to get another opinion from an engineering firm and make sure the numbers we're working with are correct.
Yeah. I know where there's 150,000 we can take this from. She didn't hear me. Mrs. Schofield's left too.
Trying to make sure you're gonna get meatloaf dinner again? I mean,
Oh,
what?
I'm gonna get meatloaf anyway.
So that's that, right? Do we need a motion
Well, I
on
think
that?
we should probably, I don't know if we need a motion, but we are not gonna move, we're gonna not move forward with awarding the bid.
Correct.
And we're gonna contact the bidders that we're gonna rebid in the fall once funding becomes available.
Okay.
Okay, so there's nothing to vote, right?
Right.
Okay. Which one do you want to go on next, Mr.?
I guess we don't have to do number 12 then.
We can skip over 12.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
Yep.
Good night.
3-year appointments.
Yes.
I move to make the following 3-year appointments to expire June 30th, 2021. Community Preservation Committee, Micah Mendelia, Concom Rep. Peter Denton, Housing Authority Rep. Ann Mazar, Land Use Rep. And yours truly, Board of Selectmen Rep. Conservation Commission, William Ayton and Michael Amendalia. Council on Aging, Mary Ann Hopkins, Ann Vandersloot, Peg Noguera. I presume I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yeah. Finance Committee, Mike Amendalia and Michael Morali. Land Use Committee, Land Use, I don't understand what this, Land Use Selectmen?
Your representatives of things. You appoint somebody who's.
I don't understand what that
Am I
means.
up already? That should be me.
Mark Rail.
Unless that's.
So
the,
moved.
No, but that could be, no, you should. It
It's
could
gotta be you.
yeah, but why?
Maybe they should say Land Use Committee. Well, I'm gonna take that one out, we'll have to do it later, because I don't understand what that means.
There's a reason- Yeah, I wouldn't say that.
So we're gonna skip that one,
Yeah,
right?
skip that.
Yeah, okay. Taxation Aid Committee, Jen Welch and Elena Brujos. Town Forest Committee, Ryan Oliva. Treasurer Collector Jen Welch and ZBA John Vandersloot.
Second.
Further discussion.
I have a question about this. I don't believe the Board of Selectmen appoints people to the CPA other than Mr. Schofield. I think it's on the individual boards.
CPA?
I don't know, the community preservation.
Who would
Bylaw
appoint
says
us?
the appointment authority is the individual people in North Parks.
I don't think so.
Mm,
I think
well,
they put them
we've always
forward,
done
we've always voted them.
Yeah.
And I also have a follow-up. I had no issue with the people at all, but I don't, like, according to Mr. McHenry, the Concom hasn't even put forth any recommendation. So I'm not sure where this is even coming from. And I could be totally mistaken.
We have to check with Laura. She's the one who handles the appointment. We could wait, do it at the next meeting.
I say we vote and we'll just change it. We've done that every year. I mean,
Right.
we've done this every year.
You said Concom hasn't what?
Well, so the community preservation bylaw says the composition of the committee is an appointment authority, the term of office shall be as follows: one member of Concom designated by the commission, one member of historic designated by historic, and so on.
Okay, so it's saying that they designate someone, but we appoint them.
I think it says they're the appointment.
Appointing
Yeah,
authority.
but either way, it's something extra we may not have to do, so what? So let's keep going. Okay, so, yep.
Oh, Jen has a question.
Jen?
I'm on there for 1 year and 3 year for treasurer's clerk, treasurer collector.
Yep.
They're supposed to be that way?
We didn't know, and Laura was out today, so we left it, did one of both, because they
It
just
shouldn't be,
overlap.
either way, it's not a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
If it's not one, it's 3.
4 years is good for me.
Is that the story you're gonna, is that the story you're gonna run with? Yeah, okay, all right.
All in favor?
Can we vote? Aye.
Aye.
I move to appoint Jen Welch as municipal hearings officer for a term to expire June 30th, 2019.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Back
All
to
right.
the beginning. Well, do you want to do your interdepartmental transfer?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Well, I was gonna go back, but.
Okay, so you should have a packet on the side of you.
I got all kind of packets here.
Like, you want to come up to, I have a packet for you.
Packet for everybody. So
Did
long
the
as,
FinCom already vote?
He is the FinCom. He signs now. They designated him to sign till the end of the year.
You can do that?
What we did last year and this year is, for the last 60 days,
I just don't have copies of yours, Dave.
You only need one, right? You don't need copies?
I need
Since you
both,
have signed one.
I think you need one.
I can vote
To sign.
Yeah, they sign the original, that's it, and that's,
I only have one.
of mine?
Yes.
You only need one now.
Still got from it, too bad.
what's that?
But go ahead and explain it and see if
From
they
it
want to
too, we
physically
like it
look
the
at
other way
it.
around.
Your call.
Yeah, I'll just explain it.
Start with Dave's.
I think those went out before, she's fixed it.
Yeah, and she said do it next time, yeah. As long as they're not half of them one way, half of them the other way.
Some are. Some are and some
Really?
aren't. Yeah.
Jeez.
So, nothing I could do.
But
No,
next
these
year,
are all 2 froms.
Yeah, did they change them?
No.
I didn't.
We want it from 2, but it's 2 from, and that's what it is for now.
continue.
It's fine. We've dealt with it.
Okay.
Moving on.
whatever.
Which one's that?
So Dave's going first.
Dave?
Okay, so,
It's not in there because he just handed it.
yeah,
So
so,
go one, you have to share it.
yeah, so 2 small ones, well, not small ones. One is from Quinn, 2 uniforms. With all the new hirings, I'm just going through the roof with uniforms.
Yeah.
I'm already over $6,400 in uniforms. It's just, a coat costs $450, one. Just had
A
3
coat?
guys. A coat, $450.
Our office is warm.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other one is kind of an accounting thing. It's $300 from dispatch salaries to expenses. We're in the negative, but I don't know how Lisa's transferring it this year. I already got all the money in, so we're actually gonna be $35,000 over this year because of that new deal we made.
Yeah.
But I can't go negative in expenses. I can only go negative in overtime and salaries. So I'm just going a little bit more negative, but again, we're gonna be $35,000 that's rolling into free cash.
We're gonna vote them all together?
I hope
That's
so.
fine.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.
No problem.
Okay.
Next.
What do you have in front of you?
Trash?
Trash.
Isn't that the next one? No.
There's her reason right there. Currently, $5,000 left in the trash account. Board still has the month of June to invoice for, and then she attached the paperwork, which is not there. I already looked at it. It's just the amount of tonnage that they have, so. I
Okay, but that's going from one place in Board of Health to another, right?
No, she said they didn't have any additional funding available because the contract just went up.
So what does that say then?
Health. Insurance. Sorry.
What does it say, health insurance? Okay,
Because
whatever.
I couldn't fit it on the line, but it's coming from health insurance. My handwriting is terrible.
All right.
Okay, so that's that. Alan has a transfer here for salaries. I did not include the stipend for the on-call, the 75 times 2, 150 times 52. So he's a little bit short. So,
So, hold on, which one? Okay.
any other order?
Yeah. That's okay, no, it's okay. I got it. I got it.
So I need to transfer 3,700 within his own budget to cover the deficit, the stipend.
48 cents for his salary.
48 cents for him.
Rich, that's 48 cents less for road material.
That's.
Can you believe it?
I'm mad as hell.
That should cover it all.
And then the last one is town clerk's salary. This is to cover the deficit created by the vacation cash out from the previous town clerk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Where you get the health insurance, okay. Well, that one, there seemed to be plenty of room for health insurance in there.
Typed it. Okay.
All set.
So, you're gonna vote, but just so you know, I notified the departments that I wanted all of the year-end transfers by today. I'm not anticipating any more because we're not meeting again until the middle of July, which is past the actual point. If
What's that?
that, we're gonna talk about, I'm just making you aware. That's not a transfer, that's just where I'm paying an invoice from, so I'll tell you. If something comes up nothing should come up between now and the end of the fiscal year. Everything is supposed to be in by now. If something comes up, we're gonna have to call an emergency meeting because we're not meeting again until July 16th. But everything should be in. I've checked them as of today. I mean, if something would have to.
It'd have to be next week.
Or it'll be bill of a prior year if some large
Yeah.
invoice comes in. So just giving you a heads up. So you can vote on that, then we'll talk about this one other thing.
Okay, so this is not included in
Yeah,
this
not
thing?
transfer, just
Okay,
making you
so,
aware.
I got papers all over the place now.
So which one are we
Here
doing?
it is, here, yeah. Okay, I move to approve the set of following, I move to approve the set of year-end transfers we just discussed.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. God. Citizen statements and petitions. Oh, we're not done with you yet? I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get through this.
Just wanted to make you aware, because it's a bit unorthodox, but we were slightly short in the CPA line for the library roof repair, which is some other. Only 42,865 was in the line. It should have been 48,500. Something else obviously got expended there. I don't have time today to figure that out, but I need
So how much is that? How much is the delta?
It's about $7,000. $6,000.
More money that doesn't go to road.
So we did have a CPA article that we did not expend from previous year for library roof repair that was $5,300, so I pulled that.
Oh, there you
to
go.
use, and then I found the additional $300 from health insurance. I'm just making you aware. Both do say library roof repair in the line for CPA, but because we're not at a town meeting, I'm just making you aware.
We get the money back into the roads.
We got plenty of money in road materials.
Anything else on that?
All right, I move to approve one day, no, you gotta do this, right?
Well, citizen statements and petitions, I'm going through them here.
Oh, okay.
Correspondence to the board, we did that.
Yeah.
Okay, now we get that. Go ahead.
I move to approve a one-day special alcohol license for all alcohol beverages for EARTH LTD at Southwick Zoo for an event at 2 Southwick Street on June 22nd, 2018, from 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at the zoo.
Second.
So I don't understand that. So why do they need any more alcohol approvals?
This is the one where they
No,
walk.
I'm not trying to be fresh.
I know, but this was.
Is this the one where they walk around the zoo?
No, because we
This
gave
was
them.
that special event, that
Yeah,
one-time
it's
special event.
Earth Bash.
Outside of the,
Oh, okay, so what they've got now, they can only drink inside Galliford's, is that right? Okay, got it, all right. That's right, yeah.
We've approved this
All in
last
favor?
3 years.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
sorry, really pushing you guys.
That's okay,
All
no,
in
do it.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's all the
And these
stuff,
two
right?
gotta be signed.
Okay, what's that?
Okay, we gotta go into executive session.
Okay, so Kimberly, I am gonna give you, Kimberly, I'm gonna give you these two. If she can't read my writing, she can scan them and email them to me and
Okay, ready? I move to enter into executive
transpose
session
them,
under
okay.
purpose 3 of Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to
Whatever.
discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares Mendon Town Hall Union, Local 272, Mendon Highway Department Union, Local 272, Mass Coalition Police Union, AFL-CIO, Local 188, Mendon Police Civilian Dispatch Union, Local 188A, and Mendon Permanent Firefighters Union, Local 4936 IAF. Roll call vote is needed.
I put all
We
them,
will reconvene only to adjourn.
Second.